Good morning. I'm Amanda Hansen here at the Action News 5 digital desk, and I want to tell you about a new thought-provoking campaign that is highlighting the unique stories of people with multiple myeloma, a currently incurable type of blood cancer with over 34,000 new cases estimated to be diagnosed in the United States in 2023. Told True is a campaign that features people with multiple myeloma along with artists who are bringing their stories to life through spoken and visual art, helping those feeling the impact. They're feeling heard. They are also feeling connected and empowered against this disease. And so joining me now to talk more about all of this is Oya, an advocate for health equity in the Black community. He was diagnosed with multiple myeloma in 2017. He joins us now along with spoken word artist Jay to talk about taking part in Told True and how the multiple myeloma community can participate, come together, feel heard. And I'm so glad to have both of you joining us this morning. How are you doing?
We're doing good.
Fantastic. It's great to be here.
And I think it's great that we're opening the dialogue and talking about this. So let's just start by talking about what myeloma is and how you were both diagnosed, or how you were diagnosed. I'm sorry, Oya.
No worries. Well, multiple myeloma is a cancer of the plasma cells in the bone marrow that is currently incurable. And I was, as you stated earlier, I was diagnosed in 2017, the day after Christmas. What a Christmas present. But prior to that, I was very sick for a few years, and I was just trying to figure out what was going on with me. I went to all kinds of doctors and seen every ologist you could think of, and nobody could come up with what was really wrong with me. So I wound up being in a situation where I went to my insurance company, and they sent their folks out to do some testing. And that's when they discovered the abnormal protein in my system, and that led to my diagnosis.
Wow, what a story. And like you said, the day after Christmas, I can't even imagine emotionally what that was like. And then going through that whole process of not knowing what's going on and finally figuring it out. How has it been for you? And I do want to hear more about the Told True campaign, because I think this is probably something that's so helpful for people that are dealing with this. So let's just talk about, just the emotions that you've gone through, how you've got involved, and why you got involved with this campaign.
Sure. Through the process in this journey, it has been challenging, emotionally, physically, and mentally, spiritually. I've pressed on through, going through support groups and then becoming heavily involved in being an advocate for this disease. And I got involved with the Multiple Myeloma Told True campaign because it just felt right. It felt right for a multitude of different reasons, but more importantly, the focus that they have pairing us up with artists like Jay, to tell our story and hopefully get folks inspired. But it's all about keeping on and having hope, and that's what's helped me through this journey. A lot of laughing and a lot of smiling.
And Jay, I want to talk with you now, because obviously Oya's story inspired you, and you created a spoken word poem about his journey. So let's just talk about, what this was like for you to be involved, and obviously inspirational. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I had my mic down. Did you hear me? I'm sorry.
Okay, yes. I wasn't sure when you cut off. But yes, no, Oya's story is incredibly inspirational, and his voice is powerful all on its own. So really, when we met, I was inspired by the way that he used such poetic and beautiful language, to describe to me what he was going through. And when we met, he talked to me about just how he started living, moment to moment and appreciating the small moments in his life. And so that's ultimately what became kind of the refrain of the poem that I ended up writing, is just talking about those moments, the moments that he got to spend time with his children, work on his music and the things that he likes. And he also spoke to me about, his struggles, feeling seen and heard and understood, and getting his diagnosis, as a Black man. And that really resonated with me as something very important to talk about, to spread awareness of. And so it was a very seamless partnership, I would say. And I think we produced a great story working with this partnership, with Pfizer and everything.
Absolutely. And I guess I'm interested, Jay, how did you hear about this campaign and what have you learned about being a part of it?
Oh my gosh, I've learned so much from this campaign. It was, brought to my attention, and I was immediately excited to be part of something like this, because what I learned, is that this disease does disproportionately affect Black people and other minority groups. We are more likely to have worse, outcomes with this disease. And so that was something that was new to me and incredibly sad to hear, which is what made me excited to do such a project to raise awareness about this issue.
Oh yeah, I want to bring you back in, because obviously we're looking at some video now. You can see of Jay doing that spoken poem. What was it like for you to hear it coming from her when she put it together and took the stage, performed it? What was that like for you?
Wow. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it now. It was a powerful, powerful moment for me. If you understand the campaign, I had no idea who she was or what the poetry was going to be, or what the art was going to be. And when I walked in and seen her on stage, it's funny, I was looking for something like a veil to be pulled off, but she was just standing there. And then once I sat down and she started speaking, I realized she was the art and the words coming out of her mouth. And it was perfect because I'm into music and I'm really big on that. And so it was just a perfect pairing. And I was just moved beyond words. I can't even explain it, but very heartfelt, very personal. It was everything to me, that moment.
It had to have been overwhelming, being able to hear that. And I mean, the power that comes from those spoken word poems, I love that. And I love that this is a campaign that's going on right now, because it helps people, too, to know that they're not alone and that sort of thing. So, Oya, what can you tell people that are maybe impacted by multiple myeloma, this campaign, the Told True, how it's really just helped you and for you to be able to feel heard and that your story is being told? Just talk about your experience, what advice you'd give for others out there.
Oh, sure. Well, for starters, it's been a great partnership with Pfizer. The Told True campaign has been a great outlet for me and what I'm trying to do as far as being an advocate for this disease. You can go to mmtoldtrue.com to get some inspiration and some hope. That's what I'm hoping to convey, or that message that gets conveyed, is that this is about hope. Because if you don't have hope, you don't have anything. And it was just a really great experience, and I wanted to do something that was bigger than myself, that really made a difference dealing with this disease.
Well, Oya, I appreciate you sharing your story. Jay, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and talk about you being a part of this campaign. Wish you both the best, and thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you, Amanda. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, so we're talking about weather. That's a big story here in the Mid-South today, the potential for that severe weather. It's a first alert weather day. And so this is a live look downtown Memphis right now. You can see just kind of a gloomy one out there. We dealt with those storms last night, the winds that came through. And of course, it's something we're paying attention to today. Here's another live look. This is our High Five camera here in Midtown Memphis, just that gray sky spanning across the Mid-South. And of course, people want to know that timing of the next round of storms that's going to come through, how that's going to impact us. So let's head over to meteorologist Brittany Bryant to give us the breakdown.
Good morning. Today is a first alert weather day. We're tracking a chance for severe thunderstorms here as we get a little later in the evening. This morning we've had some heavy rain, and we'll also have heavy rain tonight. We got about 1 to 2 inches of rain yesterday as well. So it's a lot of rain in about a 48-hour period, which is why some flooding will be possible today. And then thunderstorms could also produce damaging wind gusts. We'll have a medium threat for those, low threat for hail and tornadoes. The chances for those on the low end, but still that potential is there for us to possibly see a tornado tonight. The area that will have the best shot for getting any severe weather will be North Mississippi, eastern Arkansas, at 3 out of 5 in that area. The rest of us have that 2 out of 5 though, which is still enough to where again you could see some damaging wind gusts at the very least. So we've had some rain overnight into early this morning. We're starting to dry out across much of the Mid-South, and at 1 o'clock here on First Alert Futurecast, we're dry for most of West Tennessee, eastern Arkansas. Still some rain lingering in North Mississippi, but by 5 o'clock rain pushes back into Shelby, Fayette County, DeSoto County. 5 o'clock going through this evening, you'll just have rounds of rain continuing, and by 8:30, 9 o'clock tonight is when we could start to see some severe storms rolling in out ahead of that cold front. So some strong storms in Helena and Tunica, Memphis, even seeing some thunderstorms here. You'll have rounds of those overnight tonight. Right around 3 o'clock in the morning is when I think we could see some of those severe storms developing near Tunica, Batesville, Senatobia. Thankfully, as we get into tomorrow morning, the chances for that will drop. So after 6 a.m., we still have some rain and some thunderstorms around, but severe weather chances will be dropping by then as instability goes down. Rainfall totals with this system will probably be about 2 inches today through Friday morning in Memphis and in Blytheville. Once the system moves out, then you'll start to see some really strong winds. There's actually a wind advisory starting at midnight tonight, goes all the way through 6 o'clock on Friday. Let's look at these winds. 3 o'clock in the morning on Friday, you'll have wind gusts around 45 miles per hour in Marks and Tunica. You could see up to 50 miles per hour near Marks and Corinth at 8 o'clock in the morning Friday, and it remains windy all day. We're still talking 30 to 45 mile per hour wind gusts all the way through Friday afternoon. So you could still see some additional power outages Friday afternoon, even though we're no longer going to see any severe weather. Today we'll hit 70 degrees. Tomorrow will be interesting with temperatures. We could start off in the 50s or 60s and then temperatures dropping throughout the day. So we'll end up around 56 degrees for most areas. And this weekend is beautiful. Sunshine Saturday with a high of 61 and then up to 70 degrees on Sunday.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm going to be so happy when this weather is behind us again. Today, a big day to make sure that you have that First Alert weather app handy. It's free in the App Store. Just search WMC and you can download that. You can actually pinpoint your location so you can get the weather alerts that are going to impact you. But again, this is a live look downtown Memphis at the M Bridge, just looking gloomy out there. And of course, a lot of you heard that rain last night as you were sleeping. This is some of that rain that you heard last night. This is some video that was shot by our photographer Bo earlier this morning, and so yeah, be aware out there. There's going to be some ponding on the roadways. I know there's concern about those roadways that typically flood when we see a large volume of rain. That could be something that you're dealing with again today. So if you are familiar with the areas that maybe do end up having a lot of that flooding you see right here on the side of the road, you got to be aware of the danger of hydroplaning, that sort of thing. Maybe try to avoid those areas and find alternate routes today, because we're still going to be dealing with more and more rain. All right, another big story that we're following today. The man accused of going on a shooting rampage in parts of Shelby and DeSoto counties last September, that night that many of us won't forget. He's going to be in Shelby County Court today. And so we're monitoring that. You can see here about the charges, 27 charges that he's facing. As many of you know, this incident happened on September 7th of last year. It caused several businesses, Mattis services, even sports games to halt, as people out in the public waited in fear. And so 20-year-old Ezekiel Kelly, you see him here, he's facing 27 charges in Shelby County, including 3 counts of first-degree murder, aggravated robbery, several counts of reckless endangerment, and also a terrorism charge. 3 people were killed during all of this, just so tragic. And at Kelly's court appearance, his last court appearance, you see right here, this is video from that. We heard testimonies from 4 witnesses who said they knew Kelly, as well as one of the victims. They feared they were also going to lose their lives that night, so they were terrified. Kelly has a lengthy criminal history, with his first charges coming at the young age of 15. That's when he first started running into trouble with the law. Kelly is also facing 3 charges in DeSoto County as parts of his alleged shooting rampage. That also took place in South Haven the night of September 7th. He remains in Shelby County Jail without bond this morning. And of course, we're going to be following that. He's expected in court in less than an hour. So we'll keep you posted. If I can bring you video from the courtroom live, of course, I will do that. Something else that we want to tell you about this morning is that one person is dead after they were killed in a hit and run on East Shelby Drive, east of Neely Road. A Memphis pedestrian was hit. Police say a man was hit and killed. It was around 9 o'clock last night. The driver took off. The only description police have at this point is the driver was in a dark sedan. So if you know anything, you have any information that could help police with this, you are urged to call Crime Stoppers. That number 901-528-CASH. So a brawl at a basketball tournament over the weekend leads to 2 Memphis Shelby County school teams being banned from playoff games until 2025. Yeah, 2025. This happened between Raleigh Egypt and the Wooddale High School boys basketball team. And Action News 5's Bria Bolden got her hands on the documents detailing everything that took place. Take a look.
According to documents from the Tennessee Secondary School Athletic Association, both schools were banned for an unsportsmanlike incident on February 25th. The boys basketball teams from Raleigh Egypt High and Wooddale High playing with just over 2 minutes left. The Pharaohs were up on the Cardinals, 84-69. The emotional game led to one of the coaches being ejected. After the ejection, quote, a Wooddale player committed a hard and flagrant foul, the Raleigh Egypt administration told the TSSAA. Action News 5 has reviewed video of the foul. It shows a Wooddale player pushing a Raleigh Egypt player who was attempting a layup, causing him to land on his face and stomach. An official at the game told the TSSAA someone approached the Raleigh Egypt player and began swinging. The official said players and fans then, quote, stormed the court. It quickly escalated to chaos, the official said. I heard what sounded like a gunshot in the gym. Memphis police cleared the scene. Administration from Raleigh Egypt told the TSSAA the loud sound was caused by a firecracker. The game was never completed, and both schools are now banned from playoffs through the end of the 2024-2025 school year and fined $2,000 each.
Again, that was Bria Bolden reporting there. The TSSAA, apparently this is not the first time that they have punished the MSCS school when it comes to appealing the ruling. The district says right now they're looking at all their options, but they are taking this matter seriously. They also say they will work proactively with our schools, athletic programs, and communities to continue to promote safety and sportsmanship. So were you one of those people that are dealing with issues with the American Car Center? Well, now they are facing a class action lawsuit, and this is less than a week after the company went out of business. The lawsuit was filed by former employees claiming that they were terminated without cause and without any kind of notice, and that was a lot of people that were fired, hundreds of people. The suit says that American Car Center violated the WARN Act by not providing its employees with 60 days notice before closing. Those employees want to reclaim wages, accrued time off that they had, insurance premiums and salaries that they were wrongfully denied for those 60 days.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Electric vehicles. Let's talk about them for a minute. They're gaining in popularity, but even though you're going to see more electric vehicles out on the roadways, many consumers still have a lot of questions on whether or not electric vehicles are right for them. Let's bring in James Bell. He's head of corporate communications for Kia America. Good morning, James. How's it going?
Good morning, to you. I'm playing with cars. It's a good day.
Yeah, tell me first off, where are you and what you're sitting in front of there? Looks like an EV.
Yes, you're right. I'm in Southern California where we're getting ready for the big blizzard. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, this is what's called our EV6 GT. This one's a really special one. Has about 576 horsepower, does 0 to 60 in a little over 3 seconds. Takes on and beats a lot of Ferraris and Lamborghinis. So we're pretty excited about this car, and people seem to be loving it too. It's been on sale for about a year now, and we can't make them fast enough.
So tell me more about the idea of electric cars, because there's so many people that are very apprehensive to go to EV vehicles, or EVs, I should say, because they're just used to gas-powered. There's more flexibility. There's a lot more autonomy, according to some people that have gas-powered vehicles. What would be your best argument for EVs?
You know what? It's not even an argument. It's just recognition of this phase that we're in. I like to equate it back to what it must have been like when people went from horse-drawn carriages to gasoline-powered cars. You know, there was a lot of folks that said, well, this gasoline thing will never work. There's not a gas station on every corner. This is, I just feed my horse hay and away it goes. We're in that same kind of premise right now with this transition time. I think, however, we're going to see the transition happen a lot quicker. So if somebody, has an incredibly long commute or needs to drive to grandma's house on a regular basis, then maybe a gasoline-powered car is the best choice today. But in a very short amount of time, the electric vehicles are going to be a better option. And by the way, for most Americans, which drive on the average about 28 to 30 miles a day, imagine if you never had to go to the gas station again. Imagine every time you left your home, you had so we call it a full tank of gas or a full state of charge. It's a very luxurious experience. And I think once people try it, they recognize that this is probably a better option for their families. But again, this is transitional. We're not just going to suddenly get rid of all gasoline stations and gasoline powered vehicles. We're in a transition time. And over time, it will eventually evolve towards electric.
There's a lot of questions, James, about the power grid. I don't know if you could speak to that, but, a lot of people concerned about the power grid being able to handle the demand of electric vehicles. If there is this demand and it increases over time, there's a lot of people that say the power grid just can't handle it.
Well, I think they're being a little short-sighted there. The industry, the government, the entire infrastructure system recognizes that this is the future. It's going to happen, folks. It's going to get that way, but it's not going to just happen tomorrow. There's going to be investment. There's going to be upgrading of facilities. It was newsworthy back in the summertime here in Southern California. We had a series of very warm days, and there was a short period of time when the government, state government said, please back off use of too much electric power. And then that suddenly became, now I can't charge my car. It's an isolated incident, very, very rare. And I think it is not recognizing the fact that there is this huge multi-billion-dollar investment going on in the infrastructure to prepare for this day when we all drive electric. Because again, this day is coming. It's not tomorrow. It's not in 5 years, but it's coming.
A lot of people concerned about, one, how long it takes to charge a vehicle, and two, the distance that people will travel with one charge. There have been a number of different independent journalists that have taken, for example, other vehicles, trucks and that sort of thing, to various charging stations. It takes forever, or there's an extraordinary long wait in line for a charger to become available, and then once you get there, it takes forever for that battery to be charged. Tell me about the vehicle that you're sitting in front of.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So we're really proud at Kia. All of our electric vehicles have what's called 800-volt charging systems available. So built in is the ability to basically take on a level 3 charger, of which the number of those is incredibly increasing all across the country. It can go from a 10% state of charge to over 80% in about 18 minutes. Now, stop and think for a moment. When you go to the gas station, you plug in the nozzle, walk into the station, get a Gatorade, go to the restroom, get a snack, come back, maybe throw away some garbage, clean the windows. It's probably a 10 to 12 to 15 minute project anyway. So I think once we see this level 3 charging, again, which the Kia vehicle is already prepared for, that will really wash away some of that. But again, I know the kind of journalist trips that you're talking about. It does take a little more time and coordination to use a vehicle on, say, in a long distance or a cross-country trip today. And that's why gasoline-powered cars are still here, and they will continue to be here for some time in the future. But we're in this phase. We're going towards that place. And I think, have me back on your show in 3 or 4 years, and I think that concern about having charging stations available and ability to high-speed charge, or what's called level 3, will be in a much more advanced place than it is today. And that's the nature of transitional times.
How long does a charge last? How many miles? And how much does that car retail for?
Well, we have several different versions of this vehicle. This one gets about 250 miles on a charge, but again, this is faster than many Porsches and Ferraris. So this is a special one. But we have another version called the Wind and the EV6 GT line, which average about 280 to 320 miles on a charge. And that's more than enough. As I mentioned earlier, average American drives about 28 miles per day. So as you can see, you wouldn't even need to charge every day to use a vehicle that has in excess of 300 miles of range on a full charge.
All right, James. Well, listen, we appreciate your time. Thanks for
Sure.
talking with us about electric vehicles and the landscape and how it looks to be changing over the course of the next several years. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 digital desk. Let's talk about education in the state of Tennessee. And from what we understand, Tennessee House Speaker Cameron Sexton floated the idea of the state rejecting federal funding for K-8 education. He wants to free up Tennessee schools from various federal rules and restrictions that go along with accepting these dollars. Right now, the state of Tennessee gets about $1.8 billion annually from the federal government for K-12 education, and the Tennessee House Speaker says the state has had enough revenue to cover any difference, but does a shift like that certainly would mark a major change in how Tennessee funds education. Let's talk more about this with Marta Aldrich. She is a reporter with Chalkbeat Tennessee, State House reporter there. Marta, glad to have you back on the digital desk. How are you?
Thank you. Very well.
Good. So $1.8 billion, that's a lot of money for Tennessee to forego. Tell us, is this actually feasible, and what would it mean?
So, well, first of all, I want to say Speaker Sexton, people have asked me if this is a serious proposal, and Speaker Sexton says he is serious. In fact, his words to me were, I absolutely think we should do it. But he added that he wants to start a conversation about the idea, and that it doesn't mean that Tennessee should make this kind of massive shift this year. And spokespeople for Governor Lee and for Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally have also indicated that their offices are open to exploring the possibility. And several top education leaders in the House have expressed outright enthusiasm for this idea. They say it would give Tennessee more autonomy when it comes to educating our students. But there are other lawmakers who say they have a lot of questions still.
So I've heard from Republicans in Tennessee and other states that have talked about this move, this idea, saying that CRT, woke ideology, they want to stay away from that, and that's what they say is one of the main reasons why they want to reject funding, because otherwise there will be a lot of, I guess, strings attached to that money. My understanding is no states really rejected federal funding. Is this feasible? Could Tennessee do it? And if so, how?
So yes, Tennessee could reject the federal funding. The reason that no state has ever done this before is that states typically need the money. Federal funding makes up about 1/10 of their K-12 education budget. And leaders in other typically Republican-leaning states have talked about this idea before. In Oklahoma right now, lawmakers are currently considering legislation to phase out federal ed funding over 10 years. And there are also small school systems across the state that have passed on federal money. That's usually because of the cost of compliance for those school systems. I will say, how are we going to do this? Now, if it happens, Speaker Sexton has made this funding pivot sound pretty simple. You know, just substitute the state funding for federal education funding. But it really would not be that simple. The way that the federal funding works is actually pretty complex. Some districts and schools are more dependent than others on that money, and the lion's share goes to schools that serve disadvantaged students. And there are other federally funded programs and grants that target certain needs that range from rural education and English language learners to technology and charter schools. And all of these matters go through the U.S. Department of Education. But there's also a variety of federal school grants that go through the U.S. Department of Agriculture to provide free meals to qualifying students. And there's a related web of state laws and policies that have been created in response to most of these federal grants. That web likely would have to be unwound if Tennessee decided to go it alone.
I gotcha. And so, Speaker Sexton, he granted you an interview. You talked to him about these different things. Did he mention why they would want to do that? Is it because of various ideological differences with this administration, with the federal government here in Tennessee? I mean, did he talk specifics with you about why they would do that? Is it because of ideology?
Well, he didn't say that. He says that testing is the main problem. States that take federal money must give annual tests in reading and math in grades 3 through 8 and once in high school. They're also required to give a science test one time each in elementary, middle, and high school. So each state has to give 17 tests annually, although no individual student takes more than 3 of those tests in a given year. Speaker Sexton says Tennessee overtests and that it doesn't give the right test. He says Tennessee should scrap or could scrap the TCAP tests, which our state developed through its own testing companies, and then create a better test with the help of its educators. But if Tennessee wants to do that, it probably could already do it in conversation with the U.S. Ed Department. States already have more flexibility than ever to develop their testing, evaluation, and accountability systems under a 2015 federal law that was crafted with the leadership of Tennessee's former senator and governor, Lamar Alexander. Beyond the issue of testing, I don't think many people would dispute that accepting federal funding comes with a lot of red tape. There's mounds of paperwork. There's numerous audits of how the money is spent. All of that is part of a huge bureaucratic infrastructure that comes with administering billions of dollars of federal funding. Sexton has not given us the list of his other beefs, although we've asked him numerous times for that list. But some do suspect that his bigger objections are related to current culture war issues about curriculum and whether transgender students should be allowed to use school bathrooms or play sports consistent with their gender identity, which may not correspond with the sex that is listed on their birth certificates.
So all these changes, Marta, a lot of people are wondering, okay, what are the changes if they do happen? What would they mean for schools, and specifically, what would they mean for kids?
Yeah. So if Tennessee opts to do this, it possibly could disrupt finances for schools, but it really depends on how it's done. Through a program called Title I, the U.S. government distributes hundreds of millions of federal dollars to Tennessee schools that serve large concentrations of students from low-income homes to help them improve achievement. Now, if Tennessee replaced Title I funding with state money, would it still use the federal formula for distributing that money? Sexton has not said. This is particularly important for Memphis Shelby County schools because all but 8 of the school system's 155 district-run schools have Title I designations. And if you add up all the various pots of federal education money due to MSCS, the district is projecting to get more than $892 million in federal dollars next school year. As for what it could mean for kids, that's really the most important question, right? And the answer is there's just a lot of uncertainty. Speaker Sexton has said his intention is for the state to fund all of the programs currently covered by the federal government, but he's not given details about what that would look like. For instance, for students with disabilities that are currently protected by the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. That federal statute says schools that accept federal funds must identify students with disabilities and give them a free and appropriate public education that's tailored to their needs. Now, Sexton says the state can come up with a similar program that he believes could be better, but the Tennessee Disability Coalition says there's no assurance that a Tennessee version would give families the same or better protections than under the current federal laws that are designed to protect students with disabilities.
Are they going to discuss this during this legislative session? I mean, it sounds like Sexton floated the idea, and now it's time for state lawmakers to discuss it. So there's not going to be the details that we know that we're asking about right now. Is this something that could eventually be resolved this legislative session, or might it be something that's afterwards?
I would seriously doubt it. He has not filed an amendment to an existing caption bill that would lay out his plan. And really until people see the details, there can be no serious discussions. This is a 2-year legislative session. We're at the very beginning of the 2-year session. So he could file a bill to be discussed in next year's legislative session, and it would still count because it's part of this current General Assembly. So I would not anticipate anything immediately, but you never know.
Yeah, I got you. I got you. Marta Aldridge, Chalkbeat reporter for the Tennessee State House. We appreciate you writing a very detailed article about this very issue. By the way, why don't you tell our viewers where they can read this article?
Just Google Chalkbeat Tennessee, and you can find our website and read our ongoing coverage that has to do with both state policy and Memphis-Shelby County schools.
Okay, Marta Aldridge, we appreciate you and your time. Thanks so very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. Today is a first alert weather day. We're tracking a chance for severe thunderstorms here as we get a little later in the evening. This morning we've had some heavy rain, and we'll also have heavy rain tonight. We got about 1 to 2 inches of rain yesterday as well. So it's a lot of rain in about a 48-hour period, which is why some flooding will be possible today. And then thunderstorms could also produce damaging wind gusts. We'll have a medium threat for those, low threat for hail and tornadoes. The chances for those on the low end, but still that potential is there for us to possibly see a tornado tonight. The area that will have the best shot for getting any severe weather will be North Mississippi, Eastern Arkansas, a 3 out of 5 in that area. The rest of us have that 2 out of 5 though, which is still enough to where again you could see some damaging wind gusts at the very least. So we've had some rain overnight into early this morning. We're starting to dry out across much of the Mid-South, and at 1 o'clock here on First Alert Futurecast, we're dry for most of West Tennessee, Eastern Arkansas. Still some rain lingering in North Mississippi, but by 5 o'clock rain pushes back into Shelby, Fayette County, DeSoto County. 5 o'clock going through this evening, you'll just have rounds of rain continuing, and by 8:30, 9 o'clock tonight is when we could start to see some severe storms rolling in out ahead of that cold front. So some strong storms in Helena and Tunica, Memphis, even seeing some thunderstorms here. You'll have rounds of those overnight tonight. Right around 3 o'clock in the morning is when I think we could see some of those severe storms developing near Tunica, Batesville, Senatobia. Thankfully, as we get into tomorrow morning, the chances for that will drop. So after 6 a.m., we still have some rain and some thunderstorms around, but severe weather chances will be dropping by then as instability goes down. Rainfall totals with this system will probably be about 2 inches today through Friday morning in Memphis and in Blytheville. Once the system moves out, then you'll start to see some really strong winds. There's actually a wind advisory starting at midnight tonight, goes all the way through 6 o'clock on Friday. Let's look at these winds. 3 o'clock in the morning on Friday, you'll have wind gusts around 45 miles per hour in Marks and Tunica. You could see up to 50 miles per hour near Marks and Corinth at 8 o'clock in the morning Friday, and it remains windy all day. We're still talking 30 to 45 mile per hour wind gusts all the way through Friday afternoon. So you could still see some additional power outages Friday afternoon, even though we're no longer going to see any severe weather. Today we'll hit 70 degrees. Tomorrow will be interesting with temperatures. We could start off in the 50s or 60s and then temperatures dropping throughout the day. So we'll end up around 56 56 degrees for most areas. And this weekend is beautiful. Sunshine Saturday with the high of 61 and then up to 70 degrees on Sunday.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I want to tell you about Camp Say. It is a free 2-day performing arts camp for young people who stutter. It is a place where every young person is celebrated for who they are and given as much time as they need to express themselves fully. And these are some of the pictures from the camp in years past. I want to bring in Jennifer McGrath, Vice President of Education and Community Engagement at the Orpheum Theater Group, to talk more about Camp Say. Jennifer, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing very well, thanks. Happy to be here.
I'm glad you're with us. So tell us about Camp Say.
Well, like you said, Camp Say is a program that we've been running here in Memphis since 2018 at the Orpheum, and we work in partnership with an organization called SAY, the Stuttering Association for the Young, based out of New York City. And we host this, as you described, this 2-day free mini camp for young people who stutter, where they are given as much time as they need to speak and express themselves fully through all sorts of creative practices and mostly around community building. Essentially, what we're saying is that we think you speak beautifully exactly as you speak, and we want to hold time and space for you to come together with other young people who also stutter, and we want to hear what you have to say and how you learn to express yourself.
How long has it been going on, and what has been the response when you guys have after the camp?
Yeah, so, well, the organization SAY in New York City has been around since 2001, believe it or not. And we began this program, this satellite program here in Memphis in 2018. So I actually just checked that this spring will be our 9th session of Camp Say. And it's super exciting because, to answer your question, a lot of the young people that are coming to this program maybe have never met another young person who stutters. Maybe they feel like they are completely alone, like they're the only one, that they're hesitant or nervous to speak up, right? And to answer your question, in just 2 short days, they've suddenly built and developed this whole community of people that are just like them. They've made new friends, they've had a ton of fun, and they've been able to express themselves and share all the incredible gifts that are inside of all of them just by holding a little bit of extra time for them to speak. So I think what's really incredible is that in 48 hours, we see a tremendous journey, a tremendous boost in confidence, a tremendous networking that develops. And we also hold space for the parents and caregivers of the young people to come together and talk about what it means to be raising a young person who stutters and what the effects of that are on the young person, on the family. So really, really building a network of people and just seeing so many people make so much progress and grow so much in such a short time, while also having a lot of fun.
So it's at the Halloran Center there from March 18th and 19th. Tell us, is this a classroom setting? You know, we've seen some of the B-roll. It looks like some of the video there. It looks like they're doing all kinds of things, moving around. Take us through a day in the life of this camp.
Sure. Well, our camp is 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, and breakfast and lunch are provided. And I share that only because we sort of ease the campers in, right? You have the beauty of having the camp have been here for so long is that now we have a lot of returning campers that come back year after year, session after session, that know exactly what to expect. And so they come in ready to go. But we also have a lot of new people coming into this space. And like I said, maybe they're a little bit nervous, a little bit timid. So we like to ease in with the meal, just kind of get everybody settled in this space. And then essentially we spend a lot of time getting to know one another, and also really living into the premise, the value that everyone gets as much time as they need to speak, whether that is 2 seconds, 2 minutes, or 2 hours. We are going to hold space for you. This is an environment that is completely free of any kind of ridicule or bullying. It's all positive, uplifting, affirming time and space. And so we really just spend a lot of time getting to know one another so that the young people can learn about other people who stutter, and also just helping them to feel comfortable speaking with their stutter. We play a lot of fun games, which is always a really great time. We have amazing food at lunch, and then we spend the afternoons primarily creating things. And we believe that the young people should get to create whatever they want. So they're writing poems, they're creating dances, some of them write songs, they do animation and drawing, they're creating skits and scenes, you name it, creative writing, drawing, you name it. They are developing creative means to express their thoughts and ideas. Then on the second day, we do a little bit more team building, a little bit more games and fun, and of course those delicious meals. And then we invite anyone who wishes to share some of the creative things that they've made for their friends and family. So any parents, caregivers, etc., that want to come and observe. Nobody is forced to share anything because, of course, we know that's a pretty big ask, right, to get up on stage and share something that you've created. But I'm also really proud to say that almost every single time we've got almost every young person up there sharing a little bit about what they made and letting their voice be heard. And that's exactly what we're trying to do, is make space for that.
So, and it's important to mention that this is a free camp for anyone. And I'm curious, do people come back every year? Do you see some of the same people? And how many people do we see? And what are the ages that we typically see at this camp?
Absolutely. So Camp Say serves young people who stutter ages 8 to 18. It is completely free. One of the things that we've been doing at the Orpheum for a long time now is really working to create more access to our quality programs. And so we don't want cost to be a barrier. If you are a young person who stutters and you want to participate in this camp, we want to make sure that it is accessible to you. So we're really proud of that and really thrilled to be able to offer it free to the families that need it. And in terms of people coming back, yes, we have young people that have been coming since the very first year. It's amazing to watch them grow, both physically from small people to now most of them are taller than me, to also just the way they grow in their journey of expressing themselves, of developing friendships. And I think, many of these young people, like I said, where they are going to school, and we have students coming from all over the tri-state area. We even have students coming from as far as Florida and St. Louis, because they really need this resource and this program. And so a lot of the kids that are returning get so excited to come to camp and see their friends and reconnect with their community, because maybe where they go to school, maybe they're the only person who stutters, or maybe their teacher is not giving them the time they need, right? Because the only difference between a person who stutters and anybody else is that it just takes them a little bit more time to say what they want to say. And so I think for returners coming back, you just see them walk in the door and go, oh, this is a moment where I can take my time and I can express myself and I can be seen. So yes, we absolutely have returners that have been coming since the beginning, which is always fun. And then of course we love meeting new people. So if you've never been before, but you stutter, we definitely want you to come and join us. You'll make so many friends, and I promise you it's a good time.
Okay, so let's talk about how people can sign up, what they need to do, and how many people do you typically have every year?
Sure. It ranges from year to year. I would say we're usually in the range of 20 to 30 young people per session. We do try to find that balance of making sure that anybody that wants to be a part of the program can be a part of it, but also making sure that there's a high camper to staff ratio, right? So that everyone can get the attention that they need and deserve while they're at camp, and really connect with other young people. So we're usually in the 20 to 30 people range, again, ages 8 to 18. And to register, registration is open now. So you can go online to the Orpheum website. That's orpheum-memphis.com. And you can click on the Learn and Engage tab, and it'll direct you right there to Camp Say across the USA Memphis. There's a register button. You just have to answer a couple of questions, fill out some information. And then, of course, someone from our team will follow up with you with all of the details. Registration, like I said, is open now and closes on March 10th, so that we have time to turn around and prepare for the camp, which is actually the following weekend. So if you or a young person we also reach out a lot to teachers, educators, speech language pathologists, right? If you know someone who stutters that can benefit from this program, please send them our way. We'd really love to have them at Camp Say.
All right, Jennifer McGrath, the Vice President of Education Community Engagement for the Orpheum Theater Group. Appreciate all that you guys do, certainly, and this camp sounds absolutely fantastic, and appreciate you letting us know about it and getting the word out there for everybody. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
Camp Say, just such a great program, and it's so awesome that it's been going on for several years here in the Mid-South and helping kids that stutter and let them feel heard and whatnot. So again, a great program that's happening here in the Mid-South. But one thing I want to let you know about is we have a traffic alert that we want to get out to you. If you haven't left for your morning commute yet, you're going to want to avoid I-40 at Sycamore View. Look at this mess. It's like bumper to bumper, slow crawl at Sycamore View. This is at I-40. So heading towards the I-40-240 loop. So if you normally travel this way for your morning commute, you might want to just stay on Summer Avenue or take Summer Avenue further down and hop on the interstate a little bit later on to be able to get to your morning destination. From what we understand, there was a multi-vehicle accident. You see it there on the left side of the interstate on the shoulder there. They have the tow truck out there, but it is causing some major delays and major backups. I'm actually going to minimize this camera here just so we can see how far back this does back up. Let me refresh my screen here. Yeah, so you can see all the way back to Whitten Road, it's causing delays. So be mindful if you're heading out this morning. You can see there is some heavy congestion there on I-40 at Sycamore View, and it continues on around to the 240 loop headed east. So again, keep that in mind if you haven't left this morning for your morning commute. Amanda Hansen here at the Action News 5 Digital Desk. And if you're not hungry right now, you're about to be, because on Wednesdays, we like to talk with Commercial Appeal food reporter Jennifer Chandler. She's always bringing us the good eats around the Mid-South. Jennifer, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing very well, except for I don't like this weather forecast.
I know, right? I'm just kind of like, man, I don't want any rain. It's gloomy outside. We're halfway through the week. So, yeah, it is what it is. But you know what? We'll get through it. We'll get through it. And I know today... Today we're talking about crawfish, and before we really dive in, I lived in Arkansas for several years, you know this, and it seemed like every other weekend it was a crawfish boil. It was part of like summer and spring, and so I was so excited to be talking about this today.
Yes, I mean, it definitely is. It's like Herald Spring. I mean, you know, March is now here pretty much, and spring is, you know, daffodils are springing, and that means crawfish are available. So the season traditionally runs kind of like mid to end of February through May or June. For me, the ones that become in the beginning of February tend to be a little smaller. They're a little more expensive. So in my opinion, it really kind of kicks off right now at the beginning of March. And March and April and the beginning of May are the best time to enjoy crawfish. So in my opinion, every weekend you should be partaking in crawfish somewhere, somehow. And what's really cool is there are so many options to get crawfish here in Memphis than there's so many more than there used to be. So you can get authentic crawfish boils, and most of this crawfish is brought up from Louisiana and boiled fresh right there, and it's just like the same experience you would have if you were visiting New Orleans.
And I have some video that I snagged from commercialappeal.com, and I don't know if you want to go ahead and start going through your list of spots, like where people can go to maybe find.
I'm going to tell you some of the ones you can do, because it's pretty crazy how it's all over the city of Memphis. And so I have a little cheat sheet right here. I might look at it every once in a while. But one of my favorites that I've been going to a long time, Cajun Crawdads, that's a good one, is that Billy's Crawfish in Hernando. That is a great one to go to. Billy Crumley has been bringing up crawfish from Louisiana every week for years and years and years now. I've had it boiled from his truck, and I've also bought live from him myself for parties. Crawfish Cabin, if you're looking for one that's in the city of limits of Memphis, it's at Walnut Grove and Houston Levee, and they talk about how they have the really spicy New Orleans style crawfish. I believe they also do boiled shrimp as well. You might need to double check that to make sure they're doing that this year. Crawfish Shack, which is on Poplar and June Road, which is basically Poplar and Yates in front of, I believe that store there is called Oxbow. They're there every week and serving up crawfish. That's really convenient for those that live in the city of Memphis. Right down the road, too, is Memphis Crawfish Company 2, which is at 5133 Park. Those are the two that are really kind of in the heart of Memphis proper. One of the funny things, there's Memphis Crawfish Company 2, which is in Memphis, but Memphis Crawfish Company 1 has been in Olive Branch for they're celebrating their 20th year this year. And so Memphis Crawfish Company 2 is run by somebody else, but they buy all their crawfish and have it brought up from Memphis Crawfish Company 1. So there are lots of places that are, those are all that I talked about are food trucks. And so most of these places serve boiled seafood, and you can also order live seafood, live crawfish from them if you want to boil your own. Most, you have to check on my list I have on commercialappeal.com. I have all of this information, or you can go to their social media sites or their websites. But most are open Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday. Most sell out by Sunday. And if you want to order live crawfish, you really need to do it like at the beginning of the week, because these people drive down to Louisiana like on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and drive it back up here. So it is super fresh live crawfish. I'm also going to mention a couple of places that you can go to if you do want more of a restaurant experience versus a food truck. Glaze's Crawfish, Glaze Hardage, he has a side business that he does, and he does a great job. I think that's a picture from one of his boils, if I'm not sure. But he cooks every Saturday during the season at Max's Sports Bar down on downtown. It's kind of in the South Main area. It's kind of right down the street from the arcade. And then this year, every Sunday, he is going to be cooking at Laughlin Yard. So you can go to either one of those places and get your crawfish and get a cocktail or a beer to go with it. Billy's Crawfish, I mentioned Billy Crumley. He has his food truck, but he also has a restaurant in Hernando called Crossroads Seafood. And you can get everything from boiled crawfish there to gator to, he has a really good a shrimp kind of bisque, a shrimp chowder that he does, a seafood chowder that's really, really good. And then also Rail Garden will be hosting boils every Thursday night during the season. So it just, a lot of those things I would say, these outdoor ones at venues like Laughlin Yard and Rail Garden, just check their social media if the weather's bad. Because sometimes if the weather is bad, they're not going to host them. But sometimes they do them in the rain. So it's just, if you're really hungry for crawfish, there are lots of options you can go to.
I'm probably going to be going to either Rail Garden or Laughlin because, for one, I like the atmosphere of those places. It kind of reminds me of what your traditional crawfish boil would be like, because it seemed like we'd always put the red and white checkered cloth across the table. You just dump it all out on the table and you eat, and you have the big garbage can, and it's kind of just like, I don't know. I love it. I love it. And so it's so much fun. And I know you were going to talk a little bit about how to cook crawfish. And one thing I wanted to ask, do you normally are you the kind of the traditionalist when it comes to like the corn, the potatoes, or do you kind of throw some other stuff in there to make it fun?
Well, that's one of my tips that I'm going to give you. But yes, I normally do all of the normal things, but I have a friend who introduced me to throwing Brussels sprouts into your crawfish boil. And it is so, so good. Now, I did take a moment and, I've been cooking crawfish myself. We've hosted crawfish boils for years. And I giggle when you said you put down a red and white checkered tablecloth, because you're much more fancier than we are, because I just throw down newspapers.
Hey, that works too, right?
Yeah, I work for the paper. I have newspapers now. So one of the things that I talked to him for a minute to Glaze Hardage to get his expert tips to make sure that I was doing everything correct as far as doing my crawfish. And luckily, most of the things I was doing correctly. So I want to make sure I was excited to hear that. But one of the first things he says that when you are cooking live crawfish is you need to give your crawfish a bath, because, you know, they don't call them mud bugs for nothing. They are covered in mud, and because they, you know, they burrow down in the mud. And so you want to get all of that stuff off of them before you cook them. So the easiest way to do that is to put your crawfish in a bucket or in some type of tub, put the hose in it, and just keep running the cold water on it until the water runs clear. That's simple to do. So always give your, number one tip, always give your crawfish, your mud bugs, a bath so that they're no longer muddy. Then when it comes to seasoning, you know, you can always, this is some tips that I learned. I mean, Glaze goes all out when he does his seasoning. I've always used like crab boil or crawfish dry seasoning and kind of left it, maybe thrown some lemons in there, maybe some garlic, and left it at that. But I'm looking at my list right now just so I can tell you all the things that Glaze puts in his seasoning blend. He puts crawfish dry seasoning. He puts liquid crab boil. He puts lemons and lemon juice. He puts hot sauce. He puts garlic. He puts onions, celery salt, and then if that's not spicy enough, he adds a little bit of cayenne to kind of kick it up another notch. It's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Wow. Well, and for me, like, I'm one of those people that I want to be crying when I'm eating my food. I like it that spicy. Like, I'm one of those people. So to me, I'm like, ooh, that sounds amazing. And I know you were talking about putting Brussels sprouts in there, which I have had before. It is delicious, like you said. But I've even had people that put like okra in there or like mushrooms, and it's actually pretty good too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Glaze told me that he, in addition to the corn and sausage and potatoes, I love the idea of okra. I've never done that before. I'm gonna try that this year. But he also has put like these things. Some of these things are crazy. He's put pineapple in there. He's put asparagus. He's put baby carrots. He's put sweet potatoes. Now he doesn't do that at the crawfish boils that you're gonna go to at Max's Sports Bar or Laughlin Yard. But when he's cooking for his friends and family, and he'll throw all of these kind of crazy things in there to kind of mix it up. And it, you know, one of the things I always tell people in morning is like when you take a bite of corn or potato, you think you're going to take a bite of that so that it's like a little less, you know, that you're going to be calming down the heat. I found actually sometimes those things are spicier than the crawfish themselves.
I agree. And I like the idea of pineapple. I could see how that would work, you know, with the spiciness and kind of paired with the sweetness. I could see how that would actually work. That sounds like a good idea that I would have never thought to try.
Yeah. And I'm going to add one more tip since you like them spicy. Is one of the things that Glaze says to do is always, after your crawfish is cooked, let it soak for about 20 to 30 minutes. So all of those flavors and spices really infuse into the meat and all of your sides that you have thrown in there. But one of the things that's, you kind of need to reduce the heat a little bit. So what he does, he suggested a couple of things. You could throw ice in there, but that'll kind of dilute, you know, all the spices. So he often will throw frozen corn, like the corn on the, you know, little corn on the cob that you often see at crawfish boils. He'll throw those in there to reduce the temperature. Or he talked about, and I have to go look this up. He says there's a new gadget called the Boil Boss, and it somehow takes, you put it around your pot and it circulates cold water around the pot to reduce the temperature to the ideal temperature so that when you can allow your crawfish to soak. It's kind of interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it sounds like something that I would probably see on an infomercial, and it would tell me 10 reasons why I should buy it, and I would automatically buy it because I'm like, this is amazing. But it's so cool, the gadgets they have out there right now, and my kitchen is actually full of all kinds of, I like to cook. So, yeah, but that sounds interesting. I've never even heard of that, so good stuff.
Yeah, and I always tell people, when you go to a crawfish boil, if it's your first time to eat crawfish, don't be daunted. You know, they are these little crustaceans that you're kind of pulling apart and you're eating with your hands. And there's always usually somebody at the party or somebody there that is from Louisiana or has been eating them her whole life. Or you can invite me and I'll come over and I'll show you how to eat them. But don't be afraid to do that and to get your hands all messy. And, you know, it's one of those things that you eat the tails and you suck the heads. All those good juices from the spices, especially if you like things spicy, is suck that meat and that juice out of that head, and it is just, it's so good.
It's so good. No, I'm right there with you, and I love this. And all this information is on commercialappeal.com. You even have a video on there. I saw that on how to eat crawfish. So if people have never had crawfish before and they need to know the process from a pro, you have all that covered for everybody.
Yeah, and there are more places than we mentioned on that list too. I do this list. I mean, I selfishly do this list for me every year because I love to eat crawfish so much. And it's a full list. It has their hours. It has links to their websites or their social media. Tells you kind of what they offer, and that whole list is up there for you. So depending on what part of town you're in, there is an option for you. But just remember, if you're going to order boiled crawfish, order live crawfish to boil yourself, you want to do that. My rule of thumb is I always order on Monday. And most of these people just let you email them or text them or call them. It's a pretty easy process.
Great. Well, Jennifer, we love having you on each and every time that you join us, and you're always bringing it. So you have a great rest of your day, and I am looking so forward to crawfish season.
Yeah. Enjoy some this weekend.
We'll see you next time.
Good morning. Today is a first alert weather day. We're tracking a chance for severe thunderstorms here as it get a little later in the evening. This morning we've had some heavy rain, and we'll also have heavy rain tonight. We got about 1 to 2 inches of rain yesterday as well. So it's a lot of rain in about a 48-hour period, which is why some flooding will be possible today. And then thunderstorms could also produce damaging wind gusts. We'll have a medium threat for those, low threat for hail and tornadoes. The chances for those on the low end, but still that potential is there for us to possibly see a tornado tonight. The area that will have the best shot for getting any severe weather will be North Mississippi, eastern Arkansas, a 3 out of 5 in that area. The rest of us have that 2 out of 5 though, which is still enough to where again you could see some damaging wind gusts at the very least. So we've had some rain overnight into early this morning. We're starting to dry out across much of the Mid-South, and at 1 o'clock here on First Alert Futurecast, we're dry for most of West Tennessee, eastern Arkansas, still some rain lingering in North Mississippi. But by 5 o'clock, rain pushes back into Shelby, Fayette County, DeSoto County. 5 o'clock going through this evening, you'll just have rounds of rain continuing, and by 8:30, 9 o'clock tonight is when we could start to see some severe storms rolling in out ahead of that cold front. So some strong storms in Helena and Tunica, Memphis, even seeing some thunderstorms here. You'll have rounds of those overnight tonight. Right around 3 o'clock in the morning is when I think we could see some of those severe storms developing near Tunica, Batesville, Senatobia. Thankfully, as we get into tomorrow morning, the chances for that will drop. So after 6 a.m., we still have some rain and some thunderstorms around, but severe weather chances will be dropping by then as instability goes down. Rainfall totals with this system will probably be about 2 inches today through Friday morning in Memphis and in Blytheville. Once the system moves out, then you'll start to see some really strong winds. There's actually a wind advisory starting at midnight tonight, goes all the way through 6 o'clock on Friday. Let's look at these winds. 3 o'clock in the morning on Friday, you'll have wind gusts around 45 miles per hour in Marks and Tunica. You could see up to 50 miles per hour near Marks and Corinth at 8 o'clock in the morning Friday, and it remains windy all day. We're still talking 30 to 45 mile per hour wind gusts all the way through Friday afternoon. So you could still see some additional power outages Friday afternoon, even though we're no longer going to see any severe weather. Today we'll hit 70 degrees. Tomorrow will be interesting with temperatures. We could start off in the 50s or 60s, and then temperatures dropping throughout the day. So we'll end up around 56 degrees for most areas. And this weekend is beautiful. Sunshine Saturday with the high of 61 and then up to 70 degrees on Sunday.
Here's a live look right now at our High 5 camera here in Midtown Memphis. You can see the clouds rolling through the area, just that dark sky. And again, if you don't have it already, be sure to download that First Alert weather app. It is a First Alert action day, and you can tailor it where it gives you notifications that are most important to you, specifically to your area. So if you don't have it, it's a free download. Just head over to the App Store and search WMC. You'll be able to find it right there. So the historic Four-Way Grill in South Memphis played host to a celebration designed to encourage, support, and honor the lives of young black men. Here in the 901, the Black Brothers Brunch was organized in the wake of the Tyree Nichols tragedy that took place on January 7th. That young man died after a violent encounter with police. And this special event celebrated the contributions and bright futures of young Black men everywhere, especially these 75 in attendance.
Darkest day, the brightest light is inside of you, and the world needs your light just as you are. You are enough. You matter. Your ambitions, your dreams matter. Martin Luther King is not the only one who had a dream. You had a dream too. You got a dream, and your dream can come real. No matter what you see in society, your life is important.
Amen. Couldn't have said it better myself. Now, the gentleman enjoyed free food, fellowship, and inspiration from career and college partners. The goal of the brunch was to equip the young men with some positive words. You heard it right there, coping and self-care strategies. They also wanted to share ways to remain optimistic despite the circumstances, which can be so challenging when you're dealing with the sort of things that we're dealing with in our environment right now. So it is Women's History Month, and with that, we're kicking off March talking about some of the women representing politics here in Tennessee. Joylyn Bukovac from our sister station in Nashville was able to catch up with a few women who are making their mark. Let's take a look at this story.
But to be the youngest woman and the youngest African American to ever serve in Tennessee Senate history, I understand the work for African American voices.
Tennessee Senator London Lamar is one of 4 Black women in the Tennessee legislature.
Our voice is very limited, but our voice is very powerful, and we will unapologetically continue to advocate for our community and everything that we need.
Senator Lamar says she is pushing for changes to help solve problems impacting many people across the state. This ranges from gun violence to affordable housing and equality in healthcare.
Even as a Black woman, like as a Black woman who's lost a child to preeclampsia, who's a statistic when it comes to the fact that Black women in the state of Tennessee are 3 times more likely to die than any other woman in maternal health. So before, during, or after the birthing process.
Metro Council member Sharon Hurt says she's advocating for those with HIV after the state recently rejected over $8 million in federal funds to combat HIV.
For the state to come in and take that funding, it is definitely going to disproportionately affect Black and brown people. And we deal with these individuals daily, so we know a lot of the challenges that they have.
Another issue these women say they are working to overcome is the lack of funding in schools.
When I think about education, our Black kids are going to schools that are underfunded and under resources, where our Black children are getting lesser of an education than white students and other students in more privileged neighborhoods in this state.
If we want the kids to succeed, we have to make sure we give them the resources.
Metro Councilwoman Zulfat Sarrar says this was brought to her attention when she realized her daughter's school had their students share laptops. It's what inspired her to get involved in politics, along with her passion for numbers.
I believe that you cannot serve the city if you don't know what the issues are. If you're budgeting and you're not targeting the issues that affect the people, it's just numbers.
It's a great report there. So I don't know about you, but for most of us, a lot of our communication at work is done through email. I know I woke up this morning to over 300 emails from when I left the building yesterday. And just to put some more numbers to this, a recent poll found the average worker receives around 121 emails each and every day. They send about 40 emails themselves. And I think the thing about emails, I mean, even with text messages, as you know, they can be misread. They can be viewed as maybe passive aggressive and create tension and even jeopardize your job. So Action News 5's Andrew Douglas has more in today's Best Life report about the ways that there can be that miscommunication when it comes to email.
With virtual communication at an all-time high, emailing, iMessaging, and DMs can lead to some miscommunication. A recent study from WordFinder found out what Gen Z and the millennials really think you're saying in your emails. For instance, per my last email reads to them, "Why didn't you read it the first time?" Hope this helps says to them, "Never ask me for anything again." And the list goes on and on. "Thank you for your feedback" is like saying your criticism is totally incorrect. Other passive-aggressive phrases, just to clarify, just circling back as previously discussed. "Thanks for your input, just a few things, a friendly reminder, and at your earliest convenience." Young workers say these messages sound aggressive, condescending, or just plain rude. HR experts say there are some preemptive steps you can take to make sure your intent is understood, First, decide if the topic is better suited for face-to-face conversation. If your message is one that can be relayed over email, reread the words, thinking about tone and potential reception. CV Maker conducted a poll of more than 4,500 people, asking them what the most annoying corporate buzzwords or phrases are. The word synergy, which means increased effectiveness through collaboration, ranked number 1. Other hated corporate language includes transparency, make it happen, onboarding, and takeaway. With ways to live your best life, I'm Andrew Douglas, Action News 5.
Actually, that report was really interesting, and just to see how people viewed, what was said in the email versus how they interpreted it was interesting. Something that I often don't think about. So Black History Month might be over, but a Las Vegas woman's work to embrace diversity continues on and on. Teresa King reports how one woman owns a salon that specializes in helping Black women understand the beauty of their natural hair.
Uneducated of how to treat it, how to take care of it, how to maintain it.
We spoke with Valley residents who say they truly hated their hair growing up.
So I've always either covered it up with weaves or chemicals to straighten it out, and never actually wore the true culture of my hair.
My mom did what was typical back then, which was just to immediately put like a relaxer in our hairs when we were younger.
At times, these locals say dealing with their hair was simply painful.
Just sitting there with processed chemicals in your hair, hot combs, it was traumatic.
It was just what the beauty standard was at that time, was to straighten your hair, and I would wear weaves and extensions and all of that, and I really didn't embrace my natural hair.
Danielle Green says she's watched thousands suffer over the years.
Especially after witnessing so many Black women in my mother's salon doing the same thing. We relaxed our hair and we used other chemicals, and then it caused hair loss. And so then we had to buy extensions and weaves to fill our hair back in.
For so many African Americans, their painful hair regimen is part of an effort to fit into what's deemed socially acceptable. Studies show racial discrimination based on hairstyles can start as early as 5 years old. But the Crown Act, which stands for Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair, is a law in 20 states, including Nevada, that prohibits race-based hair discrimination.
We support the Crown Act 1,000%.
As owner of Radically Curly Hair Salon on Arroyo Grande and Warm Springs in Henderson, Danielle sees herself as a warrior against hair discrimination.
We're a part of that healing process because there's a lot of trauma with all of the negative language about your hair type. It causes pain. It causes trauma. It causes you to look at yourself in a negative light, and that's not healthy.
Danielle has made it her life's work to learn proper hair care for African Americans and take time to pass that knowledge on.
When they come here, we really cater to everyone's individual hair because everyone has different hair.
Danielle says she and her stylist make it their mission to support each client in their journey to understanding their natural hair.
To change lives, to help people to embrace who they are and not be afraid to rock their crown in its natural state.
Clients we spoke with say learning to wear their hair naturally has been a life-changing experience.
It's very freeing is the word I would use, and it helps when you come to a place like this.
Now I know that me being a Black woman, that I can actually wear my hair and feel comfortable in my skin makes me feel really good about myself.
Education that
all right, new faces in Memphis Shelby County schools, fresh out of college and back in the classroom as teachers. MSCS and the University of Memphis hosted a signing day to celebrate 8 graduating seniors joining the district as teachers this fall. The students are the first cohort to graduate from the River City Partnership, a unique teacher education program in the U of M's College of Education. Now, it's designed to put Memphis-raised teachers back into the Bluff City classrooms. Graduates of the program say that it gave them a unique perspective on the changing world of education.
When I learned about River City Partnership and their focus on social emotional learning and political awareness for students, I felt like that was something that I wanted to get involved in because I know that the politics of education is changing, and I wanted to be able to bring that into the classroom and teach children on a holistic level. And having a system that supported that mindset was really something that I appreciated and I wanted to be involved in.
Students with a passion for teaching for White Station and Whitehaven were present to watch the new teachers sign their new contracts. All right, well, today is the day you want to go and grab you a book in a comfy chair. It is National Read Across America Day. It also happens to be the birthday of the children's book author Dr. Seuss. He's one of my faves. Well, traditionally we celebrate by reading some of his books, but you can really read whatever you would like, whatever tickles your fancy, your favorite author, whatnot. I also love the Berenstain Bear books. That was one of my favorites when I was younger. Well, the day is about the joys of reading, so encourage your children to make it a habit. As Dr. Seuss wrote, the more you read, the more things that you will know. So the United States Postal Service wants to modernize the nation's largest federal fleet of vehicles. So USPS will buy more than 9,200 commercial electric vehicles from Ford. The Postal Service says the left-hand drive vehicles will fill in an urgent need and will be the first stage of an initiative to eventually replace all of its gas-powered vehicles with electric. USPS has allotted more than $9.5 billion to be able to upgrade its fleet and purchase new EV charging stations for them to enter into the next future. Well, this is pretty cool. Did you hear about this? Venus is living up to its namesake, the Roman goddess of love. Stargazers got the chance to see what astronomers call a conjunction as Venus and Jupiter pass each other. The two planets are going to appear so close to one another, some are calling it a kiss. And since we can't see it through the clouds here, here's a look at it on your TV. So I think that's pretty cool. Always love astrology and stuff like that. Okay, well, extended food stamp benefits are ending for millions of American families across the country, and now American households will have even fewer dollars to put food on the table, and it's already a struggle when we're dealing with inflation. And we've talked so much about how expensive things are at the grocery store, how much the price of eggs have gone up, butter, milk, all of the basic essentials. So what can they do? Well, Shelly Malishi is looking at some changes that are taking place and how to lessen the impact of this burden of not having as much to be able to spread out and make the food, keep the food steady in the household.
Starting this month, it's going to get harder for millions of American families on food stamps to afford groceries. On Wednesday, additional benefits allocated for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, ended nationwide.
It's a big impact no matter what age group you're looking at.
Lawmakers voted to end that additional emergency funding last month, 3 years after they approved it during the COVID-19 pandemic.
And with the allotments going away, people will be back to an average of only $6 a person a day for food. That's what the SNAP allotment is.
According to the latest federal data, in November, more than 42 million Americans were getting food stamp assistance. Now recipients will be getting a reduced amount, an average of about $90 a month less in benefits.
My income hasn't changed, so I have to find another way to make up that money that we were getting.
The end comes at a really difficult time. Low-income families are already struggling to stretch their dollars to purchase essential items amid high inflation.
I'm going to have to go to a food bank now. I don't want to have to go to a food bank.
So what can you do? The USDA recommends applying for other food and nutrition services if you qualify, like the Summer Food Service Program. Last year, Congress passed legislation that created a permanent program providing funds to families of about 30 million children to buy groceries in place of school meals during summer break. And there's also WIC, the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for women, infants, and children. For Consumer Watch, I'm Shelly Malishi.
There is a new revolutionary cancer treatment we want to tell you about, and it is something that's certainly raising a few eyebrows this morning. It's available at Methodist Cancer Institute, and I want to bring in right now to the Action News 5 digital desk Dr. Lillian Rinker. She's medical director of radiation oncology for the Methodist Cancer Institute. Let's go ahead and talk about this revolutionary breakthrough here.
Well, thanks so much for having me today. We are so excited about this new technology. It's called the Elekta Unity it's a combination of a magnetic resonance imaging scanner and a linear accelerator. An MRI scanner is a type of imaging that gives beautiful pictures of internal anatomy, and is especially helpful for treating giving radiation to cancer patients. That combined with a linear accelerator, which is the machine that typically is used to give radiation treatment, it gives us this revolutionary new technology. For instance, it is only one of 10 such treatment machines in the entire country. It's the only such machine in the Mid-South. For instance, you would need to go to Florida or Texas or Wisconsin to be able to access this type of treatment, and we just couldn't be more excited to have it. One of the most exciting things is that it gives us the ability really to see cancers in a way that we've never been able to see before in terms of radiation treatment. So for instance, organs like the liver and the brain that we just don't see too well with CT, MRI changes everything. We can so much better see the tumor, target it, and also see healthy surrounding tissues and stay off them. So we really have the ability to limit the dose to the healthy structures nicely. For instance, some of the areas that we excel in are in the abdomen and the pelvis. Think, for instance, of the pancreas, surrounded by stomach, small bowel, organs that move minute by minute, and the ability to stay off those organs and to actually focus in on our tumor. If our tumor shrinks, then, day by day, minute by minute even, we are able to refocus on that tumor and off of healthy, normal tissues. Another instance is in the pelvis, the prostate, for instance, or GYN malignancies. We're especially focused on GI and GU malignancies, or gastrointestinal and genitourinary malignancies, again, because of nearby small bowel, bladder, and rectum, which are much easier to see on this machine and avoid. Am I answering your questions?
So let me jump in a little bit, Doctor. Okay. Thank you so much, and I'm so glad that you're with us. And this revolutionary breakthrough is always great, especially when it comes to cancer treatment. Can you explain in layman's terms what patients went through before and how different it is going to be now in the most layman terms possible?
Right. So radiation is typically planned on a CT scan, which is a single snapshot of the area of the body that we're interested in. So when you're doing your planning for the radiation treatment, it's based on an image where you're contouring your cancer. You're also contouring and showing the computer really where your target is and where your normal organs are that you want to reduce dose or limit dose to. The difference here is that the imaging is with MRI instead of CT. We still do an initial plan, much like typical radiation treatment. The difference is that when a patient comes for treatment, instead of using the plan from day one, and this plan never changes, as our tumor shrinks, say a head and neck malignancy where you're getting some shrinkage of that tumor every week or day to day, we actually replan on the fly so that we can change our treatment, adapt our treatment minute by minute, not only to the size and shape and position of the tumor, but also to avoid organs around the tumor that are constantly in motion. So the ability to readapt during each treatment every day is revolutionary. It also takes longer. So a regular radiation treatment might take 15 or 20 minutes. This treatment, you may be on the table up to an hour. So it's not the right treatment for everybody. If you have a pacemaker or severe claustrophobia, this could be a problem as well.
So how new is this kind of technology, and what cancers are primarily affected with this? And what have been the results of this new treatment? I mean, is it showing vastly greater results for patients? Explain.
So the technology is quite new. With cancer research, we typically need years to help prove in an academic manner that one treatment is better than another. So we're not quite there yet with MRI, but we do have early studies that are showing significantly lower doses to surrounding critical structures. And we believe that within the next few years, we'll have such data. So especially, I'll go back to pancreatic cancer. That's a cancer that's traditionally been very difficult to treat, in part because it's hard to see. It's also surrounded by very sensitive organs, the liver, the stomach, small bowel, that are always moving. Because of this, in the past, radiation oncologists have had a hard time escalating the dose to the cancer in a way that really allows them to do a good job with that cancer. And this is such a technology that can really change that. For the first time, we have the ability to take into account the position of normal tissues minute by minute and avoid those tissues. Additionally, for the liver and brain, these are areas that we've had to rely on diagnostic imaging. And you can't go get a diagnostic MRI every day and plan off of it every day. That's just not feasible. Whereas this machine basically allows that. For the first time, we have the ability to use an MRI for a brand new treatment plan every day, on the fly, if you will. And that's just never been possible before.
That's great news. So I know that Methodist is just one of a handful of hospitals across the country that have this technology. Tell me what employees and what's been some of the reaction. Have patients been a part of this already? I mean, give me some reaction to some folks that deal with you and in cancer treatment facilities.
Right. So in general, as you might guess, that's been a tremendous reaction. With the pandemic, we were a little slower getting the machine put in place and ready to go than we otherwise would have been. We've been up and running since the end of October. But it's been a slow open. For instance, the staff, the physicist, the dosimetrist, and therapist who are so instrumental in giving this treatment have had to train long hours. They've worked very hard to be up and running for this machine, and we have actually treated a few patients already. They've done well, and everybody's tolerated the treatment quite well. We are looking to be busier, and hence the push now to kind of let the community, the Mid-South, know that we're open and ready. We're just so excited to be part of the future. This really does put Memphis and the Mid-South on the map in terms of cancer treatment in a way that we've never been.
Dr. Rinker, we have thousands of people that watch us here on the Action News 5 digital desk each and every day. A final question. What does this mean for the Mid-South from your perspective, and what would you like Memphis and the Mid-South to know, other than the details you explained to us, just know about this revolutionary technology coming to Memphis?
Yeah, so it's a wonderful new technology. Anybody who thinks they, might want to know more, might be a candidate for treatment, give us a call. We're happy to talk with you. We would love to get the word out. We would love to have more providers and patients come meet with us, check us out. Let's see if this treatment might be right, for people, in Memphis first, but case in point, for even surrounding states, you'd have to go to Texas or Wisconsin or Florida to get this treatment. So for people who are closer to us than those places, they should consider consultations here. I think as we grow and the machine becomes more in use, we will have or find many more ways that it excels.
Okay, Dr. Lillian Rinker, Methodist Cancer Institute, talking about the revolutionary cancer treatment that is now here and available for patients in the Mid-South. We appreciate your time this morning. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, each and every month we like to look back on various trends, what's happening in various facets of our lives, society, entertainment, sports, culture, that sort of thing. And to do that, we always bring in a Google expert to really kind of give us an idea of what people are searching for during any given month or perhaps the Super Bowl. We have right now Elizabeth Howard, a Google Trends expert, with us, joining us now on the digital desk. Elizabeth, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning, Andrew. Thanks so much for having me.
Appreciate you being here. So I'm looking at some of these trends here, and I would think, we talked immediately after the Super Bowl, some of the different trends people were searching for, and it looks like when it comes to entertainment, of course, Rihanna and some other Super Bowl trends were at the top of the charts.
Yes, absolutely. Entertainment was a huge category this month. Rihanna stole the show, the Super Bowl. So sorry for the two football teams who played, but Rihanna was the top search. And in specifically Tennessee, we saw Stay as the top search song during the Super Bowl for Rihanna. And we also saw her partner A$AP Rocky was the top celebrity search during the Super Bowl. So that was a unique search that we were surprised to see as well.
Yeah, and I had a meme that I posted afterwards, and it was making fun of people kind of looking at the screen saying, is Rihanna pregnant? And it turns out that's one of the search items, Rihanna pregnant or not.
Yes, it is. It was the most searched item as soon as she started her Super Bowl performance, and she did confirm her second pregnancy. And so her second pregnancy was the most searched topic the day after the Super Bowl as well. So she had people talking for quite a few days.
No question, Elizabeth. Something else, I'm looking at the list here, a couple things that kind of stood out to me, and it may be something I've missed. The science aspects, Colorado River was the highest search in the science category for the month of February. And then the UFOs, when it comes to odd news, UFOs really searched in the month of February. Bring us up to date. Where are these coming from?
Sure. So Colorado River is experiencing a 2-decade-long drought, and people are really concerned about their water supply. So we saw a lot of searches around where does the Colorado River start? Where does it end? What states does it touch? Is it drying out? What does the water supply look like? And so we saw people concerned about that. But then on the other side of science, we also saw unidentified foreign objects pop up in our search trends as well. And the top search in that category is what is in the sky. So people were very interested in what's flying around in the sky. We saw people search for aliens and are aliens real? And one of the unique searches in Tennessee is all across the United States, every state was searching for the movie Alien except Tennessee, who was searching for the movie Predator. So everyone in Tennessee really beat out the rest of the United States searching for the Predator movie.
That's interesting. I love seeing weird stuff like that. And I guess the Chinese balloon issue was one of the reasons that probably people started searching for UFOs and different things out in the sky. NBA All-Star Weekend, I see that was a big search with LeBron James getting the scoring record too.
Yes, absolutely. And we saw all across the United States people searching for Team LeBron versus Team Giannis. And in Tennessee, big Team LeBron fan. So, and pretty much I will say, no offense to Team Giannis, but I think most of the United States was Team LeBron during that weekend.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Of course, we had two Memphis Grizzlies playing in the All-Star game this year, so that was, I know a lot of people, at least in the Memphis area, certainly watched that. What else can you tell us about it? I see when it came to food, National Pizza Day topped the charts, huh?
Yes, February 9th, one of the greatest holidays, National Pizza Day. And of course, you know, the great debate going around is New York style or Chicago style. And in Tennessee, definitely New York style. We actually saw quite a divide amongst the United States. The lower half of the United States was very much a New York style pizza people. And then the northern half was Chicago style. So really, however you celebrated, you can't go wrong there, though.
You know, it's interesting, you know, Valentine's Day, of course, search there. And on Valentine's Day, you guys have it in various subcategories like searches for Galentine's Day, self-love, single awareness day. And then the top, is it weird to alone? Is it weird to go to a bar alone, a concert alone, restaurant, movie? That's weird to me, or odd, or I don't know. Is it?
Well, you know, this year we did see a lot of searches that moved out of just the romantic Valentine's Day searches. So we did see, what are some Galentine's cocktails to make? Is it weird to go to dinner alone? Is it weird to go to a movie theater alone? But one of the most interesting things that I thought was for a romantic Valentine's Day date is people were searching for cities to escape to for the weekend. And Orlando was the top most searched city in Tennessee. And if you maybe didn't go to Orlando but wanted to stay in Tennessee, a spa retreat was the top date idea for those hanging around the state for Valentine's Day.
Interesting. I always love breaking it down, these Google Trend searches. Tell us, Elizabeth, where people can find it on their own.
Sure. Anyone can access these trends at google.com/trends, and you can search by specific categories, specific locations, a specific time of day. So I really encourage anyone to check it out. You will be very surprised at the things that pop up.
You can go down a rabbit hole and really be like totally fascinated on like what people are searching. Elizabeth Howard, really appreciate the time this morning. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. Today is a first alert weather day. We're tracking a chance for severe thunderstorms here as we get a little later in the evening. This morning we've had some heavy rain, and we'll also have heavy rain tonight. We got about 1 to 2 inches of rain yesterday as well. So it's a lot of rain in about a 48-hour period, which is why some flooding will be possible today. And then thunderstorms could also produce damaging wind gusts. We'll have a medium threat for those, low threat for hail and tornadoes. The chances for those on the low end, but still that potential is there for us to possibly see a tornado tonight. The area that will have the best shot for getting any severe weather will be North Mississippi, eastern Arkansas, a 3 out of 5 in that area. The rest of us have that 2 out of 5 though, which is still enough to where again you could see some damaging wind gusts at the very least. So we've had some rain overnight into early this morning. We're starting to dry out across much of the Mid-South, and at 1 o'clock here on First Alert Futurecast, we're dry for most of West Tennessee, eastern Arkansas. Still some rain lingering in North Mississippi, but by 5 o'clock rain pushes back into Shelby, Fayette County, DeSoto County. 5 o'clock going through this evening, you'll just have rounds of rain continuing, and by 8:30, 9 o'clock tonight is when we could start to see some severe storms rolling in out ahead of that cold front. So some strong storms in Helena and Tunica, Memphis, even seeing some thunderstorms here. You'll have rounds of those overnight tonight. Right around 3 o'clock in the morning is when I think we could see some of those severe storms developing near Tunica, Batesville, Senatobia. Thankfully, as we get into tomorrow morning, the chances for that will drop. So after 6 a.m., we still have some rain and some thunderstorms around, but severe weather chances will be dropping by then as instability goes down. Rainfall totals with this system will probably be about 2 inches today through Friday morning in Memphis and in Blytheville. Once the system moves out, then you'll start to see some really strong winds. There's actually a wind advisory starting at midnight tonight, goes all the way through 6 o'clock on Friday. Let's look at these winds. 3 o'clock in the morning on Friday, you'll have wind gusts around 45 miles per hour in Marks and Tunica. You could see up to 50 miles per hour near Marks and Corinth at 8 o'clock in the morning Friday, and it remains windy all day. We're still talking 30 to 45 mile per hour wind gusts all the way through Friday afternoon. So you could still see some additional power outages Friday afternoon, even though we're no longer going to see any severe weather. Today we'll hit 70 degrees. Tomorrow will be interesting with temperatures. We could start off in the 50s or 60s and then temperatures dropping throughout the day. So we'll end up around 56 degrees for most areas. And this weekend is beautiful. Sunshine Saturday with a high of 61 and then up to 70 degrees on Sunday.
Well, I don't have to tell you that vehicle and violent crimes are on the rise here in Memphis, and police are working to tackle the issue, but they're having a hard time with manpower, and that's why they're asking for your help in policing neighborhoods. Action News 5's Parker King spoke with a deputy chief about this exact issue.
We all must be part of a community that's involved, willing to talk about issues.
Over 2,500 vehicles stolen, 402 guns stolen from vehicles, and just in the last 2 weeks, 39 people shot. These are the stats Memphis Police Deputy Chief Paul Wright sees in our city.
It's hard to tell a person that you're going to be safe when you're having incidents happen around them.
Wright says violent offenders are getting younger and younger. The deadly shooting in South Memphis off Essex and Arkansas Monday committed by a 17-year-old. The department's response is to work closer with juvenile court.
We have recently been meeting with our juvenile court officials and plan to have case review meetings with them so that we can present to them, especially our repeat offender cases.
Deputy Chief Wright puts part of the blame on Memphis families.
You got to be able to put your kids into these programs. Why didn't the parent identify that problem?
When asked if parents should be fined or held criminally responsible for the actions of their children, a concept adopted in nearby cities like Jackson, Mississippi, Wright deferred.
The people, the community, your politicians, that's what they do. I enforce law. And whatever law that you want.
The goal is to staff MPD to efficiently patrol Memphis streets, and Wright says he's optimistic.
Do you see spurts of employment or hiring? I'm sure, yes. I would say you see people come in when things bad happen. You see people come in and their whole goal is to be part of the change.
Now, that was Parker King reporting there on the other side of juvenile crime. We've been in contact with juvenile court about these conversations with MPD, what they look like, what solutions could result to lower crime. Juvenile court Judge Sugarman is expected to sit down with us a little bit later on today, so we'll keep you posted on what happens there. Well, we also want to talk about Shelby County District Attorney Steve Mulroy. He put forward his plans to deal with violent crime here in the city. DA Mulroy says his plan includes prioritizing violent crime over victimless crimes, also some new guidelines on non-fatal shootings. So that means sticking with cases even if persons of interest are unavailable or uncooperative, and finally establishing a cold case unit with MPD. A turnaround at Tennessee's Department of Children's Services. People are applying to work there. Current employees are staying longer on the job, and children no longer live and sleep in CDS offices, except here in Shelby County, and that's a problem. Action News 5's Joyce Peterson explains why this is all happening.
I think obviously, this has been a very difficult season for DCS.
3 months after a scathing audit revealed a mass exodus of employees in Tennessee's Department of Children's Services, DCS Commissioner Margie Quinn told state lawmakers Wednesday things are looking up.
We've seen 500 new applicants in 2 weeks, which is extraordinary.
An entry-level case manager job now pays more than $50,000, up from $43,000. New hires receive more training, 24 weeks instead of 9. Their caseloads capped at 10. Paperwork's been reduced, and the hours worked each week limited.
We've gone from a period of time where people were running from the sinking ship to a place where people are excited about going to work here.
DCS and Governor Bill Lee seeking $193 million in additional funding from the legislature. $62 million would buy a modern computer system. $33 million would cover 166 new beds. Do the math. $33 million to house 166 children for 1 year. That is a cost to taxpayers of $198,000 per child.
So literally it costs about $200,000 a year for a bed. Wow.
that's really eye-opening.
Commissioner Quinn also said most children living in DCS offices have been moved to transitional homes or Isaiah 117 houses to wait for a foster family. But the group operates no homes in Shelby County, and tonight there are still children sleeping in DCS offices in Memphis.
If we can get out of the offices in Shelby County, it is because the faith-based community in Shelby County will have stepped up and helped us procure temporary housing locations in Shelby County.
And that was Joyce Peterson reporting there. Commissioner Quinn said DCS should have all children who are still living in DCS offices relocated to a facility with a bed and shower within the next 30 to 60 days. Of course, we'll stay on top of that for you and keep you posted. So a Tennessee bill would require some bar owners to have Narcan easily accessible in their bars. Senate Bill 200 requires establishments to have gross alcohol sales of more than $50,000 a year to be able to keep Narcan accessible. The bar owners would be required to pay for the Narcan. Senator London Lamar from Memphis sponsored this particular bill. Moving over to D.C. now, lawmakers introduced new railway safety legislation today to try to prevent train derailment incidents like the one that we saw last month over in Ohio that has received so much national attention. It's raised so many questions, and there's so many people concerned about that situation. This particular bill aims to improve safety procedures, increase fines for wrongdoing, rail carriers, and establish other requirements. So our Washington Bureau News reporter Stetson Miller tells us more about this bill, this legislation, and how it could make railway and communities around them even safer. Take a listen to this.
Senators from both sides of the aisle introduced the Railway Safety Act of 2023 today. It would increase fine for rail carriers and impose stricter rules for them. Under the legislation, trains carrying hazardous materials would face new safety requirements and would be required to provide advance notice to state emergency response officials about what they're carrying. The plan would also aim to reduce the risk of train wheel bearing failures, invest in future safety improvements, and increase fines that the Department of Transportation can issue for safety violations. 6 senators introduced the legislation on Wednesday, including Ohio Senators J.D. Vance and Sherrod Brown. Brown said he feels good about passing the bill.
The fact that in a week we were able to get 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats to move forward on this bill speaks volumes about its chance of passage and the speed that I hope we can pass it.
Senator Vance released a statement about the legislation that said in part, through this legislation, Congress has a real opportunity to ensure what happened in East Palestine will never happen again. We owe every American the peace of mind that their community is protected from a catastrophe of this kind. In Washington, I'm Stetson Miller.
Well, Tennessee lawmakers last week passed a controversial youth transgender surgery bill. The bill, which now goes to Governor Bill Lee's desk for signature, would ban doctors from altering the hormones of anyone younger than 18 in the state of Tennessee. It would also prevent minors from having surgeries to help change their gender. Memphis Representative Antonio Parkinson was one of 3 Democrats who voted to pass the bill. Here's why he said he voted for that particular legislation.
So my constituents didn't want it. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You know, my constituents were like, let these children be children, let them grow up and make that adult decision when they become adults.
Governor Lee has said that he would sign that bill into law. Civil rights groups have vowed to file a lawsuit if and when the bill becomes a law. So a looming court date for 2 people detained outside of an event where Tennessee Governor Bill Lee was in attendance. The pair plan to confront Governor Lee about the controversial drag bill. Now, we have just got some new information that bill did pass that final Senate vote and is now heading to Governor Bill Lee's desk. We do also know that Ramesh Akbari, senator here in Tennessee, and Lamar London voted no. They were 2 of the 6 no votes. But again, that looming court date for those 2 people that were detained outside of that event here in Memphis. Action News 5's Walter Murphy explains what happened.
That voice you hear calling Tennessee Governor Bill Lee a liar or saying drag is not a crime belongs to John Wilbanks, the Memphis drag performer known as Moth Moth Moth. The comments sparked by a bill that would ban male or female impersonators from performing in places where minors could potentially see it. The comments also come after a yearbook photo surfaced that appears to show the Tennessee governor dressed as a woman when he was in high school.
Ridiculous to try and conflate some high school skit to something that is as serious as potentially really harming children.
If they think that we're a danger, all I want to see are the facts. All I want to see is some evidence, because right now, all I hear is baseless and hateful rhetoric.
A rhetoric they say harms the LGBT plus community, and one they wanted to talk to Governor Lee about. Instead, two were arrested. This is the video of Moth being escorted into the back of a Memphis police squad car.
Hey, I'm just talking!
A Memphis trans woman named Salamander Pride was also handcuffed by police after she yelled Bill Lee is a Nazi through a window. Both were charged with disorderly conduct. Salamander was also charged with resisting arrest. The two were later released, but will have to appear before a judge on May 1st.
I understand what I've done. I'm fully willing to appear in court, and I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to do it peacefully, but I will do it with a megaphone in my hand.
And that was Walter Murphy reporting there. Again, as we mentioned, news coming into our newsroom now, that drag bill did get approval by the state Senate. It's now headed to Governor Lee's desk for his final signature. So some lawmakers are working to advance the Right to Work Act. It relates to a worker's right to deny union membership and opt out of those union dues. Some lawmakers say they believe Right to Work gives an individual protection from losing their job if they don't want to join a union.
Every American should have the power to decide whether or not to negotiate for themselves and their employer. And no American should be forced to pay union dues just to keep a job.
28 states, including Tennessee and Arkansas, are right-to-work states. Believe it or not, the air quality inside your home can be worse than the air that you breathe outside, especially in colder months when you keep those windows up and the doors closed. But as Ariana Poindexter explains in today's Bottom Line report, there are some simple steps you can take to improve the air quality inside your home.
While newer, more tightly sealed home construction improves energy efficiency, Consumer Reports says it is also partly to blame for indoor pollutants. Where are they coming from? Gas stoves, for one. Tests by Consumer Reports confirm they're a possible source of toxicity and are cause for concern. So what can you do?
Think ventilation. Use your range hood every time you cook and open windows to get the fresh, clean air from the outside in.
Other pollutants, VOCs, or volatile organic compounds emitted from cleaning agents, pesticides, aerosols, even couches and carpets, irritants to your throat, nose, and eyes. Some may even cause cancer. The solution?
Whenever possible, avoid using harsh chemicals to clean your home. If you can't, again, think of ventilation. Open windows and doors.
And buy mattresses and furnishings that use natural fibers like cotton. Keep your home dust-free. Use a vacuum with a HEPA filter to trap contaminants and clean or change the filters in your air conditioner. Air purifiers can also help. Allen, Winx, and Blue Air models earn top marks in Consumer Reports tests and will run between $275 and $741. You'll likely smell our next pollutant, mold. Often caused by humidity, it can cause rashes, flu-like symptoms, eye and lung irritation. Consider a dehumidifier. Consumer Reports highly rates Honeywell, Medea, and Home Labs and will run between $200 and $320. If your mold stems from a recent weather disaster, you might be eligible for federal assistance. Check out this website for details. And that odorless, colorless, sometimes fatal gas, carbon monoxide, install a detector on every level of your home and outside each sleep area. Consumer Reports also recommends checking for radon, a radioactive gas that can seep into your home from water and soil. And if your house was built around 1980 or before, check for asbestos and lead. You may want to work with a professional to see what options you have to make sure your home is safe. With our Bottom Line report, I'm Ariana Poindexter, Action News 5.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 digital desk. The new reality of remote working. It has really swung the power back to the employee, making it a crucial time for organizations to develop their internal talent. But in this current fluctuating labor market, talent retention for employers and mobility for workers remain a challenge. Let's bring in Leo Gonsalves. He is someone that works Workforce Solutions, a vice president of Workforce Solutions, University of Phoenix. Leo, good morning. Let's talk about talent mobility and why it is so important.
Good morning. Thank you for having me today. Talent mobility refers to the ability of the workforce to unlock and access new opportunities, skills, and positions. The University of Phoenix and Executive Networks conducted recently research with 600 HR leaders and knowledge workers. And what we found out is that developing a reliable pool of internal candidates leads to an increased level of engagement, satisfaction, and retention with the existing employees. In fact, 2/3 of the employees that were interviewed in this survey indicated that they would be more likely to stay with the current employer long-term only if they had more access to career development opportunities within their current employer. The research also highlighted a gap in the understanding. Employees are not aware of the opportunities that companies they are making available to those employees.
You know, I totally get that. You know, one of the things that we see in our industry is that people want professional development. And if you can give them professional development, they'll be more apt to stay. What resources are available to support talent development, Leo?
Yeah, technology developments have enabled the emergence of skill-centric digital talent marketplaces that allow employers to unlock the full potential of their workforce. It resolves that gap in understanding between employers and employees that I just referenced. These platforms, think of them as like dating apps of internal jobs. They allow employers to constantly scan for the qualified employees based on the skills and preferences of those employees.
It's interesting, and I know that the platform is beneficial to workers. Can you tell us how?
Yeah, for employees, it's all about increasing access and agency. This type of platform gives the employee now an opportunity to signal to the employer the skills they have, but also learn new things and enhance their careers with mentors on projects where they currently work. 2 companies that we looked at in our study saw key benefits for the employees for finding mentors, as well as an increase in the number of new assignments that go to female applicants.
So let me ask you this, Leo. You know, the workforce is changing. It's ever changing. Employees and employers with new people coming in each and every day, new people leaving. How do you promote a strong and engaged workforce these days?
Yeah, I think the adoption of a platform can help and can only be fully unlocked its potential, though, if it's backed by major efforts to shift the culture of the organization. That requires a consistent push by leadership to change throughout the organization, creating the incentives for the employees to participate in this process. It ultimately requires a changing mindset where the individual talent of the organization is recognized as a company asset.
Okay, and Leo, you know, we've touched on a number of different topics here. Where can people get more information?
They can go to phoenix.edu/workforce solutions and find more.
Okay, Leo Gonsalves, VP of Workforce Solutions, University of Phoenix. Appreciate the conversation this morning, Leo. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, a live look outside from our High 5 camera here in Midtown Memphis. You see those dark clouds covering the sky here in the Mid-South. It is a first alert weather day, and that's why we have meteorologist Aaron Thomas joining us here at the digital desk. Aaron, how's it going?
Hey there. Well, we had a few storms that were with us early this morning, but we're starting to see a little bit of a break right now. We've got more on the way as we're heading into this afternoon. So that's why today is a first alert weather day. We've got this enhanced risk that continues to be across the Mid-South. And notice that big red bullseye area right over the Arklatex area. That's where there's going to be a stronger, more significant risk for some of those storms. However, here across the Mid-South, for those areas highlighted in orange, that is called an enhanced risk from the Storm Prediction Center. That enhanced risk is equal to a level of 3 out of 5. And with that, all modes of severe weather will be possible. So that enhanced risk does include a good section of eastern Arkansas, a good section of North Mississippi, and also notice how it slices Shelby County kind of right in half there too. But as I've always said with these outlooks, the storms, they don't know these hand-drawn boundaries. So even if you are up towards Tipton or Lauderdale County, some of those areas that are in the yellows, still don't want to let your guard down, because again, all modes of severe weather will be possible here. I'm especially concerned with some heavy rainfall. We've already had some rainfall over the past several days, and the grounds are very saturated. So if you do see one of those hefty downpours, it really wouldn't take too long for that to start some ponding on the roadways and maybe even have some flash flood warnings issued. After that, we are going to see some damaging winds, and some of these are going to be on quite the strong side too. So winds in and of itself, that can cause some power outages. And then we've also got a low end threat for hail and tornado. And while it may be on the low end, it doesn't mean that the chances are zero. Again, all modes of severe weather will be possible with this system. It's all part of this front that we've been watching for several days as it continues to hang out across the Mid-South. And it brought us some showers and a couple of rumbles of thunder this morning. Nothing severe this morning, but here's a look at our first alert Doppler radar at 10:03 this morning. And as you can see, the Action News 5 viewing area, we are on the dry side. But of course, things will change as we're heading into later on. So I can't rule out a little area of drizzle or sprinkle as we're heading throughout the day. But notice by 7 o'clock this evening, starting to see some more of those isolated showers and some of those thunderstorms, especially for areas to the west. Now, it may not be until 10, 11 o'clock tonight, even closer towards midnight, that we start seeing some of those strong to severe storms move into the Action News 5 viewing area, primarily across eastern Arkansas. Right around midnight, you see Poinsett, Cross counties up towards Jonesboro, seeing that heavy rain. 3 o'clock in the morning, draped right across the Mississippi River, and it will continue its push eastward as we're heading into the early morning hours there for your Friday. So 6, 7 o'clock or so, we're still going to be dealing with this weather system, and it's been causing us some issues on the roadway today. I'm expecting the same story for tomorrow, but even some of those storms could be on the stronger side, as mentioned. We'll still have some lingering showers that continue through 9, 10 o'clock or so, but I think once we get that main line out of here by 9 o'clock, we should be just seeing a good old-fashioned rain, and then generally by 11 a.m. or noon, we should be looking at mainly dry air here across the Mid-South. Now, I did mention winds would be a concern, especially behind this system. We are still going to have a breezy day tomorrow. We could see those wind gusts between 40 to 50 miles per hour, especially between 8 o'clock and 11 o'clock in the morning or so. So there is a wind advisory that is in effect. It starts at midnight tonight, and it's going to remain in effect all the way through 6 o'clock for your Friday afternoon. So everyone is included in this wind advisory. So even if you do see some winds and it's not thunderstorming, those winds in and of itself, as mentioned, can cause some power outages. It can take down some tree limbs and things of that nature. Heavy rainfall, as mentioned, will also be a concern. We've already had a good dose of rain. We could see another 1 to 2 inches of rainfall. Some of those heavier amounts for areas to the north and to the west. But as mentioned, the grounds are already very saturated. So if you do see one of those torrential downpours this evening, heading into tomorrow morning, that could cause some flash flooding. So there is a flood watch that is in effect through noon on your Tuesday. And once we finally get this system out of here, again, right around 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, that main line, we're finally going to see some drier air move in. So the second half of your day on Friday is going to be dry. It's going to be a cool day too following that system, but temperatures in the 50s. But then we rebound back to the 60s by the weekend. 70s for your Sunday. Your weekend looks fantastic. So after a very active pattern that we'll have for the next several days, take advantage of the nice weekend forecast. It looks like we stay dry as we start off the next work week, but more rain will move in by Tuesday and Wednesday. And it's also going to be unseasonably warm once again. So a little bit of an unsettled pattern as we're heading into the middle of next week.
I know everybody will be ready to have that nice weekend after what we experience in the next 24 hours. And like you said, it seems like the biggest things that we're concerned about, wind, always a big concern for people here in the Mid-South just because of power outages, and it impacts so many people. And then I already saw this morning, like you were saying, we had that rain that came through, the flooding issue. You know, there were a lot of roads already this morning where there was ponding on the roads and people were having to avoid these areas. And there's always those typical areas around Memphis that flood. So would you say those are kind of the big takeaways for people as far as the impacts that they're probably going to feel from this?
Yes, I know there's a section of Parkway over by the Crosstown Concourse, that underpass right there that typically floods. Because it's a typical spot where we do see that water starting to stand and pond, I would expect that for tomorrow morning. If you live near a creek or a stream, I wouldn't be surprised if you start to see that kind of bubble up over the edges and you start to see more ponding of water maybe in your yard if you're close to those creeks and streams, but certainly areas closer towards bodies of water. Even if it's a small body of water, that's where you are going to see most of those issues. And, you know, I've been driving around for the past several days. Of course, we've also still have a lot of dead leaves, and we also have some like small branches and twigs and everything just from previous storms and wind that we've had. So that can cause some issues too when it comes to the roadways and them not being able to drain maybe as effectively or efficiently as they could otherwise. So yes, heavy rainfall will certainly be a concern with this system, and damaging winds will be the secondary hazard along with that.
Yeah, I did reach out to the city this morning. I was trying to see if I could get them here on the digital desk just to talk about things that they're maybe doing. Like you said, the leaves and the tree limbs and all that kind of clogs up things. So I was trying to reach out. Hopefully we'll hear back and we'll maybe get them on at some point today. But yeah, I also worry in our backyard, we have a giant oak tree. And it seemed like last time when we had one of the storms that came through, we had a big tree limb that fell and actually messed up our fence. So that's something I always worry about when you talk about the strong winds in our area. And I'm sure I'm not alone in that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, we do have a wind advisory, but also make sure you have a way to get alerts for other storm events. So we may have some severe thunderstorms. We may have even a couple of tornado warnings that go out. So make sure you have a way to receive those alerts. A really good tool to have is our weather app. Just search WMC there in the app store. It's a free download. Brittany Bryant, myself, we've been here all morning. We're going to be with you at midday today, and then later on we'll have Spencer Denton and Ron Childers. But not only do you get weather alerts whenever there actually is a warning that is issued by the National Weather Service, but we here in the First Alert Weather Center, we will send you updates prior to that severe weather hitting. We'll give you alerts on the timing, and if there's any changes as far as the severe weather threat, we send out numerous updates throughout the day to keep you in the know. So the WMC weather app is a really great tool to have, especially on our First Alert Weather days. And I wouldn't be surprised if we do see this First Alert Weather Day expand into tomorrow morning. But at this point, we're just calling Thursday a First Alert Weather Day, but Ron Childers and Spencer Denton, of course, they'll make that call as they head into this evening and they get more model data that comes in. But again, with this being an overnight event, you do want to make sure that you have a way to receive those alerts if there's any severe warnings that are issued by the National Weather Service.
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing with this. You said mentioning midnight, a lot of people asleep. And if you have your phone by your bed like I do, you'll be able to hear those alerts when you need them. So anything else you want to mention, Aaron, before we let you know? I know it's a busy day for you.
It's at least quiet right now, but if you're just now tuning in to the digital desk and you missed the timing, we can go over that one more time here with my First Alert Futurecast. So this is going to be 7 o'clock this evening. Notice we'll have some scattered showers across the area, but that big bulk of red and orange, it's still draped off to the north and west of us. And we just mentioned the midnight hour here. Again, it may not be until 11 o'clock or midnight that we really start to see these storms lining up. moving into eastern Arkansas over towards Harrisburg, Jonesboro, and we'll see that continue to make its way eastward as we're heading into the early morning hours here on your Friday. By 3 o'clock in the morning, going to be right along the Mississippi River and continuing to make its way eastward throughout the morning. So that main line going to be coming in, especially right around lunch hour, or excuse me, the rush hour here, early in the morning hours for your Friday. And then we'll finally get that main line out of here by around 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. Notice how it's making its way over towards the Tennessee River by 9 o'clock. But behind it, there will still be some moisture here and maybe a clap of thunder within that. But behind this main line, we should just be looking at rainfall. But I would say right around midnight tonight, that's whenever things could really start to fire up here across the Mid-South.
All right. Well, Aaron, I appreciate you taking time to join us here on the Digital Desk. And if be sure to follow all of our meteorologists on the various social media platforms, because they're going to be providing updates throughout the day. Aaron, I appreciate you, and you have a good one, all right?
Thank you.
Okay, I want to tell you something that our friend Talisa Franklin mentioned last week, I believe. She mentioned this stage play coming to the Cannon Center downtown. It says she went to college to get an education. She came back with a life lesson. The production is called Something She Can Feel, and we are joined right now by the director, Terrell Munger, Pastor Terrell Munger. Pastor, how are you? Good morning.
I am absolutely phenomenal. I'm a morning person, so this is my time.
Awesome, awesome. I'm going to meet you right where you are because I'm feeling the same way. I appreciate you joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. So tell us what Something She Can Feel is all about.
Well, it's really using entertainment to kind of shift and influence. One of me and my wife's favorite terms is we want to normalize being in love again. And that feeling of being in love, it helps you in so many areas. I'm sure people can relate that when you have a relationship issues, it's hard for you to focus at work. It's hard for you to sleep at night. But when your relationship is healthy and you have a person that supports you, it just seems like it brings out the best in you. So we use this stage play to kind of paint that picture. Most of the people that I've talked to went through a heartbreak in their college age years, and it changed how they saw the world. Some of them never even recovered, and they don't trust men or they don't trust women. So we use this stage play. It's funny, it's entertaining, but it's a therapeutic point to look at where you are in your heart so you can fix your relationships. And I'm trying to do with this generation what shows like A Different World did for my generation. Just use entertainment to inject some positive vibes into the city. We need it. And we use this stage play and this whole theme of the college experience to create that atmosphere to inspire people in life and in love.
I love it. I love the idea. It sounds great. And I see that some of the names of people that are in this play, Pastor, this is a Memphis play in more ways than one, right? Tell me about it.
It is. It's a Memphis play, and I've been writing stage plays for about 8 years now, and I've been fortunate to have a lot of sellout performances, a lot of great participation. Some of the people that I grew up with in the rap industry back when I used to rap when I was younger have always supported it. A couple of them have even been in some of my plays. And while I'm pastoring a church and doing so much, I've released like 6 books, but I haven't done a stage play in a while. And I thought this would be a great time with everything that's going on in the city to just inject some of this positivity. It's funny, and it deals with something that a lot of people know about, but they don't pay attention to. Most women have emotional needs, and men use those emotional needs to manipulate women. And a lot of times they don't even realize they're being manipulated until they got caught up in the web. So I use this stage play to not only help women look out for some of those red flags, but to help men, some men, see what they're doing to some women. So it's really a learning point, it's a funny point, and it's a therapeutic point.
That sounds fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to checking it out. So give us the details about it. It's early next month. It's going to be at the Cannon Center. How much are tickets, and where people can get those tickets?
Yeah, I definitely work to make the tickets very affordable. The tickets are $55 for the down front VIP section, $45 general admission. Is going to be at the Cannon Center, March 4th at 6 p.m. Of course, you can get your tickets on Ticketmaster. You can also get your tickets and see more information about these productions at tntworld.org. We call it TNT World because my name's Terrell. My wife's name Tiffany, and we even went through some relationship challenges ourselves that almost ended in divorce about 4 years ago. So we took the lessons we've learned to try to help other people, and so we had to blow up our individual worlds and create a world that made sense for us, and we believe other people can do the same. That's why we call it TNT World Production. You can see it at tntworld.org.
Fantastic. I love it. So this is March 4th. It's only one day. Is that right?
It's one day, and it's a whole experience. We have a lot of the Greek organizations coming out. We have the Craigmont Marching Band is going to open it up, coming through the lobbies with the drum majors and the majorettes. It's going to be a huge, huge, huge event that you just have to experience. It's more than a stage play. This is a total experience.
I love it. I love it, Pastor. Okay, one more time for our audience there. This is Something She Can Feel, stage play at the Cannon Center downtown, March 4th. One night only, March 4th, and it's for everybody. It's for the whole family, right?
Correct. It's a family-oriented stage play, and it really helps you to not only value each other's journey, but it brings you closer to see the differences between men and women to strengthen your relationship. So if you got young daughters, if you got young men, they need to see it now before they run into those college-age experiences that damage how they see the world. So it's something great to talk about, like we used to sit in front of the TV together. Back in the day, you get to sit in the same room and enjoy the same experiences to have some conversations about it.
I love everything you're saying, Pastor. Really appreciate your time this morning. Best of luck. Congratulations on the stage play. We look forward to hearing more about its success after March 4th. Appreciate you joining us. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Okay, this month marks the 100th anniversary of the Equal Rights Amendment. However, now, a century after the fight for equal rights, the amendment has not been enshrined in the Constitution, and it's Women's History Month. It kicks off today. ERA Coalition President CEO Zakiya Thomas is joining us now on the digital desk to discuss the history of the Equal Rights Amendment and why we need to protect those rights. Zakiya, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks.
So let's review, what is the Equal Rights Amendment?
The Equal Rights Amendment is an amendment to the U.S. Constitution that would protect against discrimination on the basis of sex. So it would empower Congress to create laws that protect against discrimination. It would give the courts tools to determine whether or not laws are in violation of rights based on sex. And it would give all of us protection, a stronger level of protection against discrimination in our legal system.
So why is it not in the Constitution right now? Why is there not an amendment?
So the amendment was first introduced in Congress 100 years ago. It was passed by both houses of Congress in a bicameral effort, or a bipartisan effort about 50 years ago. And in 2020, it was ratified by the final state needed to be added to the Constitution. So it's met every requirement it needed to be added to the Constitution. Right now, we just need it to be published. And so we're calling on Congress to affirm that the Equal Rights Amendment is valid and it's part of our Constitution and it's the law of the land.
So that published, what does that mean exactly? Does it need to be published on a website? Does it need to go to all 50 states? Does it have to be published by Congress?
So right now, it just needs to be published by the archivist. So the archivist is the person responsible for adding constitutional amendments to the Constitution. In the 70s, there was an arbitrary deadline put on the Equal Rights Amendment that Congress put there to say, or arbitrary time limit in Congress as to when the states needed to ratify the amendment. Since Congress can put a timeline on an amendment, it can also take a timeline off the amendment, which is why we're calling on Congress to do just that, to affirm that the Equal Rights Amendment is part of our Constitution and that it is the law.
Okay, and what do we understand when it comes to Americans' views about the Equal Rights Amendment?
It's not surprising that 78% of the country thinks that we should have an Equal Rights Amendment, that men and women should be treated equally and not discriminated against on the basis of sex. And to just understand that the Equal Rights Amendment is for everyone. Some like to say it's just a woman's issue. It's really for everyone. Think about a world in which men and women are paid equally for doing the same work, where LGBTQ plus individuals are protected against discrimination based on who they are, and where all of us are treated equally under the law. That's the promise of the Equal Rights Amendment, and that's why we need it so much, so imperative for us to have it enshrined in our law today.
Where can we go to get some more information? You know, our viewers are watching right now. There's thousands watching. Where can they get more information on this?
You can join us in this movement by visiting eracoalition.org, follow us on social media, and be a part of the voice of America today, calling on Congress to enshrine the Equal Rights Amendment in our Constitution.
Okay, ERA Coalition President, CEO Zakiya Thomas, we appreciate your time and thanks for the info.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's switch gears here and let's talk about a brand new study. It finds that managers are shouldering the burden of mental well-being at the workforce these days. Mental health, of course, a big concern, especially coming out of the pandemic. Well, according to the World Health Organization, approximately 12 billion workdays are lost each year to conditions like depression and anxiety. Mental health conditions can directly affect a person's quality of life, including their productivity at work. Let's bring in right now Dr. Joe DeGrasso. He is a PhD. He's a senior director of the workforce transformation at Lyra Health, and he's joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk. Dr. Grasso, how are you?
I'm well. How are you, Andrew?
Not too bad, not too bad. Working on a number of different things here, but mental health is always an issue that I kind of stop everything and pay attention to because it's so prevalent. And it doesn't matter what background you are, it doesn't matter how old you are, what gender you are, people are finding mental health issues everywhere. And it's affecting their work, and it's affecting how productive they are. Where did you see in this study about mental health?
Well said, and what our study found echoes a lot of what you just mentioned. We found that 86% of workers that we surveyed across the United States reported that they had struggled with their mental health at least once in the past year alone, but only 33% reported that they had gotten any kind of care or treatment for their mental health. And when you combine that with the fact that 60% said that their mental health affects their ability to work, it really became clear that not only is this an issue for individuals, but it becomes a critical problem to solve for employers as well.
You know, it's interesting. It also said that that managers really shoulder the brunt of this mental health crisis that we're dealing with now. And I know a few managers, and they tell me all about this. It's such an issue right now. Why do you think that is, and how do we improve that?
It's true. Managers really feel the squeeze, because they have to report up to leadership in ways that hold them accountable for productivity and production from their team. But they're also answering to a team of employees that are more attuned to mental health than ever and recognize that a manager holds a lot of the cards when it comes to curbing risk of burnout and work-related stress. And so what managers need from their employer are more resources around how to recognize when work might be causing distress or mental health harm to teams, recognizing when an employee might need a referral to a mental health benefit or resource, and also recognizing that they need tools to lead teams in ways that create mentally healthy work cultures.
So, Doctor, what do we do to strengthen the workplace well-being for everybody out there? Because it really needs a lot of emphasis, and it feels like it just needs a lot of TLC.
It does, and we need to attack it from a few different angles. We need to make sure that employers are providing mental health benefits that get people into care quickly and get them matched with the provider who's well suited for their needs. So that way, when a manager does recognize someone's in distress, they can trust that that person's going to get the help that they need. Then we also need to train managers in how to lead these teams in ways that prevent the risk that work itself is causing distress. And so there's interventions that need to happen from within the company, but then there are also benefits and resources that employees need outside the company to get necessary care.
Can you share maybe some strategies, if there were some bullet points right now with our viewers? We have thousands of people watching us right now. Maybe some strategies out there that can help managers and others with the workplace and mental health well-being right now?
Absolutely. If you're a manager, I want you to hear the message that prioritizing your mental health is not only important for you, it's important for your team. And this can be simple things happening in the workplace, like making sure you're taking vacation, and when you do, you make sure to be fully offline and disconnected so that your team knows that they have permission to prioritize their mental health and be fully disconnected when they're away from work. Same thing with setting boundaries around work hours, not sending emails at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. And lastly, not going it alone. If you're a manager dealing with complex or tricky issues at work, model what it looks like to ask for help so that your team can recognize that it's okay to reach out for support when they're needing some extra help too.
What else, Joe? We've touched on a number of different things. Is there anything else you want to mention to our viewers that you feel might be beneficial to them?
Just to recognize that mental health is a universal issue. As you were mentioning earlier, everyone is affected by their own state of mental health. And no matter what your state of mental health is, it's worth you prioritizing investment into it. So this means doing things like ensuring you're getting good physical activity, you're socializing, you're getting good sleep, you're making sure to stop and maybe reflect with some gratitude on things that are going well in life, but also know that if your own attempts at taking care of yourself aren't cutting it, if you're still struggling with your thoughts or emotions or behavior that you're wanting to change, those are all good indicators that reaching out for mental health support from a professional is a really good idea.
Joe, this is a great conversation to have. Where can people go to get some more information? Maybe some of the things that you discussed.
Sure. To learn more about anything that we discussed, whether that's manager strategies or how you can take care of your own wellness, or to read all of the findings from our report, you can visit our site at Lyra, L-Y-R-A, health.com.
Okay, Joe Grasso, PhD, Senior Director of Workforce Transformation. We really appreciate the discussion. Very helpful and just shining a light on something that really needs to be addressed, not only this year, but going forward into the future. Thank you very much. Whether it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we are always focused on the weekend. We're focused on the weekend. We're focused on date night. We're focused on what we're going to do, who we're going to see, where we're going to eat. And that's why it's so important to talk to Jennifer Chandler, the food reporter at the Commercial Appeal. And Jennifer, I guess we're talking about date night, right?
Yes, we're definitely talking about date night places if you really wanted to impress that special someone in your life. These are the restaurants in Memphis where I would make a reservation to go. Most of them are a little bit of a splurge, but they are serve great food, great service. They're some of Memphis's top restaurants. And not only am I going to share what I think are the 10 most romantic restaurants in town, I'm going to share what my favorite table for two at each one of these restaurants is.
I love it. I love it. And I love this list. Let's hit it.
Okay, well, we're going to start with A. It's kind of an alphabetical order a little bit here. So Acre is one, and this is this restaurant in East Memphis. And I think a lot of people don't realize it's there because it's kind of tucked away off of South Perkins, kind of right where the road bends there. But look at this table. They have this table for two this was in a former home. So in the front dining room, which is the smaller dining room, there is this great fireplace, and there is this table for two in front of the fireplace, and you just feel like you're, someplace, especially in the winter, someplace very romantic. And it is my favorite spot in the restaurant Acre. The restaurant is by Wally Joe and Andrew Adams, two fabulous restaurateur chefs, and they do great food. And if you haven't been there, you need to check out Acre. And if you're going for a date night, ask for that table. But you can't go wrong with any table there. Next on my list is Andrew Michael Italian Kitchen. And Andrew Michael, again, I love these places that are in homes because I think they would create this kind of like intimate dining experience that you don't that you feel like you're kind of like this special person in someone's home. So they have these lovely dining rooms, but my favorite place is in the bar. And they have these banquettes that they created, and you can't really quite tell from this picture, but the banquettes, the sides are really, really tall. So when you sit in those banquettes, you feel like you're the only person in the restaurant. And I love that kind of nice, cozy feeling. Any seat in this restaurant is definitely romantic, and the food is great. And one of the things that I always do when we go there is I love their pastas, and I could never pick one. So we always share. So I think that a lot of the things on their menu are great for kind of like sharing for two. So definitely Andrew Michael Italian Kitchen, and ask for one of those booths in the bar. So moving on, Chez Philippe. So Chez Philippe has been, the quintessential fine dining restaurant in Memphis for decades. And they they closed during COVID back in March, and they didn't reopen until this past fall. And so whereas the dining room is still that elegant, room that they have all of, you can see all of like the faux marble and all of there's no place like it anywhere else, but they're doing these tasting course menus there now, and they're really over the top, excellent wine service. I went in December and enjoyed my meal and my experience there. I will say, if you're going to Chez Philippe, just plan on, it's a 2 to 3 hour meal. It is it's a production, but it is very romantic. And especially if you really want to splurge, I'd say get a room at the hotel afterwards. So that way you don't have to go home after enjoying your multi-course meal. And I forget how exact number it is. It may be 8 courses. It's a lot, but it's pretty fancy.
Yeah, I love Erling Jensen's. I was fortunate enough to be there last month, and it was a 7-course with wine pairings on each course. Unbelievable, modern French. You can't beat it.
Yeah, well, we'll mention Erling's now. That's on my list too. And, but you don't have to, you can go for a special event where you have a tasting menu like that, but Erling's does do also a la carte. And, they have my favorite table in Erling's. Is kind of, if you look in the dining room, that it is kind of, there's a tabletop table that is in front of the front windows. You can see it in this picture. You can see those windows right there. There's a two-top right there, and you just kind of feel like you're a little bit away from the fray of everything going on in the restaurant. And yeah, there's a reason Erling Jensen has been, the top chef in Memphis for, I would say he's probably going on 30 years, because I had a date night with my husband at La Tourelle when he ran La Tourelle, and we've been married 25 years. That was before we got married. So, but Erling Jensen, that's in East Memphis. It's off of Yates. Again, it's in a former home, tucked away. It's just very, very, very charming. Going back to kind of my alphabetical order, if I can keep in it, is Coastal Fish Company. Now, this is not in a home. It is not intimate at all as far as like the site, but it has the best view, in my opinion, of any restaurant in the city of Memphis. It's sitting on the banks of Hyde Lake and Shelby Farms Park. And I mean, and if you go at sunset, look how stunning that is. I mean, just absolutely beautiful. And one of the things that's great about this restaurant, I mean, I love any scene in this restaurant, but there's this fabulous, huge patio. And in the summertime, they have fans going. So after sunset, it really kind of cools down. But in the winter, what they do is they have put up sides that run across the front that are glass sides. It's a partition. It doesn't go all the way up, but they have heaters. So, I mean, if it gets down to 20 degrees, it's not going to be comfortable there. But if it is 50 degrees, 60 degrees, in Memphis, do not hesitate to sit outside and ask for one of the tables that is on the edge of the patio that directly over, you have the front row seat to that amazing view of a sunset. And don't be afraid to go to dinner early. I know early bird special, it's really not a special, but as far as, you know, a 5:30 or 6, just time your reservation around sunset, and it's worth going to dinner early just because it's so breathtaking. Next on my list is Dory. And Dory is back on Brookhaven Circle. It's actually right next to Andrew Michael. And Dory is a lovely restaurant by David and Amanda Krog. And it is a tasting menu, kind of like we were talking about Chez Philippe. And my favorite table in this restaurant, as you can see right here, it is in the front corner, right across the street from right across from the kitchen. So they have an open kitchen, so you can watch the chefs in action, and it is just really kind of fun. And, you know, since it's right there in the corner and has that partition, again, you feel like you're kind of intimate, and you feel you're kind of in your own little private dining area. And those chefs are at this restaurant are so talented and so into what they do. It is so fun to watch them preparing your meal. So Dory is on my list. And I forget the exact night, but I should have written this down, but I believe it's on Wednesday nights. They do a little bit shorter. It's either Tuesday or Wednesday nights. You need to double check online. But they don't do their full course, 6-course tasting meal. They do a smaller one that's 4 courses so that you don't have to make as big a time commitment when you're eating at Dory. But it's such a fabulous dining experience. I just love it. Okay, next on my list is a Memphis classic that's been around forever, Folks Folly. You know, it's Memphis's original prime steakhouse. I mean, it's been around since the 70s, and there's nothing like those steaks that come to your table sizzling in butter. I mean, I've never had that anywhere else. But again, this is like all these other restaurants I keep saying that are like in those old original homes, but they have these private dining rooms that can seat 2 to 4. Sometimes they can seat 6, but they're kind of, they have these curtains and they're kind of partitioned off. And it's just a really charming way to have a really intimate, romantic dinner, especially if your special someone loves steak. Folks Folly Prime Steakhouse is where I would go for that experience. Napa Cafe is right around the corner from Folks Folly. This is again in East Memphis. It's in the Sanderland Center. And owner Glenda Hastings has just created this just really welcoming, well done restaurant. It's got a nice wine list. It's got a really good wine focus. And there are several places in this restaurant. I had a hard time choosing which I was going to choose my favorite romantic table, but I decided to do this one, which is called, it's in Jan's Room. It's this little nook that is off the side dining room, and it has kind of this glass sliding door. So it kind of looks into the main dining room, but it has a banquette in the corner. And it has some of her favorite cookbooks and some memorabilia on the walls behind you. And you can snuggle in that little corner and just be a little away from everything, but still have a view of the restaurant and everything going on in there. If that table is not available, there's also a private dining room in the wine cellar as well. So, which is another cool experience. But again, every place of these restaurants that I'm mentioning, I'm telling what my favorite romantic table is, but there's really not a bad seat in the house. Then Supper Club on 2nd. So this is a really kind of cool, different dining experience. This is kind of right across the street from the Peabody. And this table right here you can see is in the front window. There's one that's right in the front table, and there are like 2 or 3 right there in this kind of like nook there. And there are 2 tops. And that is where I like to sit because one, you can kind of look out on the street, but you can also look back and see the scene going on in this restaurant. So the food is excellent. I went recently and I had their version of a lobster pronto pup. I think they're called lobster dogs, and they were really good. And these short ribs that were just over the top. But I will say this one is kind of a scene a little bit because it has a club-like, it's a restaurant, it's a fine dining restaurant, but there is a club-like atmosphere a little bit, like there's loud music playing, kind of like this kind of cool soul R&B, and it's, the lights are dim, and it's a fun, different dining experience. And as I said, I love to sit in one of those front 2 high top tables and kind of watch everything that's going on in the restaurant. It was funny when they were opening it, they told me that a supper club, originally back in the 50s was, you would go to dinner and you would watch a show. And they said that they were hoping to create a restaurant where there wasn't a show per se, but dining there was the experience, was part of the show. And it definitely is kind of a fun and different kind of cool vibe to go to. And then, one more on my list, and it is a very new restaurant, The Lobbyist. So The Lobbyist at Chisca is in the historic Chisca building that is on South Main, kind of a little bit, kind of a block or so away from the Orpheum. And this is a restaurant by Chef Jimmy Gentry, and it opened in January. And it is really cool especially this is one that a lot of times if you have people that are vegetarian, you can't take them places to eat. If your Valentine or your special someone is a vegetarian, you can take them there and they will have a fabulous meal because he has a whole big section called produce section, and I swear you will not miss the meat at all. But he does have great meat. I mean, he has great steaks and he has fish dishes and sweetbreads and all of those things. But he does vegetables really, really, really well. And so the table that I love there is that one that's under that great piece of artwork. It's in they call their PDR, their private dining room. And you just kind of feel like you're off in the corner. It's a really nice little place because especially under that chandelier, you can see it's breathtaking. But again, not a bad seat in this restaurant as well. I think I did all 10. I hope I did all 10. But all of these places are just really true Memphis originals. They're all owned by Memphians. They're all, Memphis originals serving great food. They have good service. They're worth the splurge, as I said. Whereas I picked my favorite tables, and you can go to commercialappeal.com/food and see this list, and it does talk about each one of these tables, and each one. Any seat in these houses, any seat in these restaurants is absolutely perfect.
I love that list. It is a great list. There's only 2 places I haven't been, and I got to check them out. But that list is fantastic, Jennifer. And my apologies when I interrupted you before. I said Erling Jensen. I meant to say Chez Philippe. I was at Chez Philippe last month, and it was 7 courses and wine pairings at each course. So it was. It's just such an amazing dining experience. You can't go wrong. But you can't go wrong, as you mentioned, with any of those restaurants. They're just so good. I love it.
Memphis is so lucky to have so many great places here. It's really amazing. And I have to admit, when I make these lists and I have to narrow them down, it's, first I was going to do my top 5, and I was like, I can't narrow it down to 5. I've got to do 10. And I probably could have mentioned a few more. There's so many great places here in Memphis. And I just, I always encourage people is just look and see. We've got so much cool stuff. We have a really great restaurant scene, and it just, I shouldn't probably say this, but my daughter lives in Nashville, and I've been going there a lot this year, and I go to all these places that supposedly are the best restaurants in Nashville, and we sit there and we're like, this is not as good as what we get in Memphis. So
you know what? You're not the first person that has told me that. They've said the exact same thing. We went to this place in Nashville, so we got plenty of those and better ones in Memphis. So you're absolutely right, 100%. And take Jennifer's recommendations on these restaurants, they're so good. Commercialappeal.com/food. Jennifer Chandler, as always, thanks very much.
Thanks. Good to see you.
Good morning. I'm Amanda Hansen here at the Action News 5 digital desk, and I want to tell you about a new thought-provoking campaign that is highlighting the unique stories of people with multiple myeloma, a currently incurable type of blood cancer with over 34,000 new cases estimated to be diagnosed in the United States in 2023. Told True is a campaign that features people with multiple myeloma along with artists who are bringing their stories to life through spoken and visual art, helping those feeling the impact. They're feeling heard. They are also feeling connected and empowered against this disease. And so joining me now to talk more about all of this is Oya, an advocate for health equity in the Black community. He was diagnosed with multiple myeloma in 2017. He joins us now along with spoken word artist Jay to talk about taking part in Told True and how the multiple myeloma community can participate, come together, feel heard. And I'm so glad to have both of you joining us this morning. How are you doing?
We're doing good.
Fantastic. It's great to be here.
And I think it's great that we're opening the dialogue and talking about this. So let's just start by talking about what myeloma is and how you were both diagnosed, or how you were diagnosed. I'm sorry, Oya.
No worries. Well, multiple myeloma is a cancer of the plasma cells in the bone marrow that is currently incurable. And I was, as you stated earlier, I was diagnosed in 2017, the day after Christmas. What a Christmas present. But prior to that, I was very sick for a few years, and I was just trying to figure out what was going on with me. I went to all kinds of doctors and I've seen every ologist you could think of, and nobody could come up with what was really wrong with me. So I wound up being in a situation where I went to my insurance company and they sent their folks out to do some testing. And that's when they discovered the abnormal protein in my system. And that led to my diagnosis.
Wow, what a story. And like you said, the day after Christmas, I can't even imagine emotionally what that was like. And then going through that whole process of not knowing what's going on and finally figuring it out. How has it been for you? And I do want to hear more about the Told True campaign, because I think this is probably something that's so helpful for people that are dealing with this. So let's just talk about, just the emotions that you've gone through, how you've got involved, and why you got involved with this campaign.
Sure. Through the process in this journey, it has been challenging, emotionally, physically, and mentally, spiritually. I pressed on through, going through support groups and then becoming heavily involved in being an advocate for this disease. And I got involved with the Multiple Myeloma Told True campaign because it just felt right. It felt right for a multitude of different reasons, but more importantly, the focus that they have pairing us up with artists like Jay to tell our story and hopefully get folks inspired. But it's all about keeping on and having hope, and that's what's helped me through this journey. A lot of laughing and a lot of smiling.
And Jay, I want to talk with you now because obviously Oya's story inspired you, and you created a spoken word poem about his journey. So let's just talk about, what this was like for you to be involved.
Yes, no, Oya's story is incredibly inspirational, and his voice is powerful all on its own. So really, when we met, I was inspired by the way that he used such poetic and beautiful language, to describe to me what he was going through. And when we met, he talked to me about just how he started living, moment to moment and appreciating the small moments in his life. And so that's ultimately what became kind of the refrain of the poem that I ended up writing, is just talking about those moments, the moments that he got to spend time with his children, work on his music and the things that he likes. And he also spoke to me about, his struggles, feeling seen and heard and understood, and getting his diagnosis, as a Black man. And that really resonated with me as something very important to talk about, to spread awareness of. And so it was a very seamless partnership, I would say. And I think we produced a great story working with this partnership, you know, with Pfizer and everything.
Absolutely. And I guess I'm interested, Jay, how did you hear about this campaign and what have you learned about being a part of it?
Oh my gosh, I've learned so much from this campaign. It was, you know, brought to my attention and I was immediately excited to be part of something like this because what I learned, you know, is that this disease does disproportionately affect Black people and other minority groups. We are more likely to have worse, you know, outcomes with this disease. And so that was something that was new to me and incredibly sad to hear, which is what made me excited to do such a project to raise awareness about this issue.
Oh yeah, I want to bring you back in because obviously we're looking at some video now. You can see of Jay doing that spoken poem. What was it like for you to hear it coming from her when she put it together and took the stage, performed it? What was that like for you?
Wow. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it now. It was a powerful, powerful moment for me. If you understand the campaign, I had no idea who she was or what the poetry was going to be or what the art was going to be. And when I walked in and seen her on stage, it's funny, I was looking for something like a veil to be pulled off, but she was just standing there. And then once I sat down and she started speaking, I realized she was the art and the words coming out of her mouth. And it was perfect because I'm into music and I'm really big on that. And so it was just a perfect pairing. And I was just moved beyond words. I can't even explain it, but very heartfelt, very personal. It was everything to me that moment.
It had to have been overwhelming, being able to hear that. And I mean, the power that comes from those spoken word poems, I love that. And I love that this is a campaign that's going on right now because it helps people, too, to know that they're not alone and that sort of thing. So, Oya, what can you tell people that are maybe impacted by multiple myeloma, this campaign, the Told True, how it's really just helped you and for you to be able to feel heard and that your story is being told? Just talk about your experience, what advice you'd give for others out there.
Oh, sure. Well, for starters, it's been a great partnership with Pfizer. The Told True campaign has been a great outlet for me and what I'm trying to do as far as being an advocate for this disease. You can go to mmtoldtrue.com to get some inspiration and some hope. That's what I'm hoping to convey, or that message that gets conveyed, is that this is about hope. Because if you don't have hope, you don't have anything. And it was just a really great experience. And I wanted to do something that was bigger than myself, that really made a difference dealing with this disease.
Well, Oya, I appreciate you sharing your story. Jay, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and talk about you being a part of this campaign. Wish you both the best, and thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you, Amanda. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Today is a first alert weather day. We're tracking a chance for severe thunderstorms here as we get a little later in the evening. This morning we've had some heavy rain and we'll also have heavy rain tonight. We got about 1 to 2 inches of rain yesterday as well. So it's a lot of rain in about a 48-hour period, which is why some flooding will be possible today. And then thunderstorms could also produce damaging wind gusts. We'll have a medium threat for those, low threat for hail and tornadoes. The chances for those on the low end, but still that potential is there for us to possibly see a tornado tonight. The area that will have the best shot for getting any severe weather will be North Mississippi, eastern Arkansas, a 3 out of 5 in that area. The rest of us have that 2 out of 5 though, which is still enough to where again you could see some damaging wind gusts at the very least. So we've had some rain overnight into early this morning. We're starting to dry out across much of the Mid-South, and at 1 o'clock here on First Alert Futurecast, we're dry for most of West Tennessee, eastern Arkansas, still some rain lingering in North Mississippi. But by 5 o'clock, rain pushes back into Shelby, Fayette County, DeSoto County. 5 5 o'clock going through this evening, you'll just have rounds of rain continuing. And by 8:30, 9 o'clock tonight is when we could start to see some severe storms rolling in out ahead of that cold front. So some strong storms in Helena and Tunica, Memphis, even seeing some thunderstorms here. You'll have rounds of those overnight tonight. Right around 3 o'clock in the morning is when I think we could see some of those severe storms developing near Tunica, Batesville, Senatobia. Thankfully, as we get into tomorrow morning, the chances for that will drop. So after 6 a.m., we still have some rain and some thunderstorms around, but severe weather chances will be dropping by then as instability goes down. Rainfall totals with this system will probably be about 2 inches today through Friday morning in Memphis and in Blytheville. Once the system moves out, then you'll start to see some really strong winds. There's actually a wind advisory starting at midnight tonight, goes all the way through 6 o'clock on Friday. Let's look at these winds. 3 o'clock in the morning on Friday, you'll have wind gusts around 45 miles per hour in Marks and Tunica. You could see up to 50 miles per hour near Marks and Corinth at 8 o'clock in the morning Friday, and it remains windy all day. We're still talking 30 to 45 mile per hour wind gusts all the way through Friday afternoon. So you could still see some additional power outages Friday afternoon, even though we're no longer going to see any severe weather. Today we'll hit 70 degrees. Tomorrow will be interesting with temperatures. We could start off in the 50s or 60s and then temperatures dropping throughout the day. So we'll end up around 56 degrees for most areas. And this weekend is beautiful. Sunshine Saturday with the high of 61 and then up to 70 degrees on Sunday.
And we got a live look right now from our High 5 camera here in Midtown Memphis. The gray sky just spans across the Mid-South. And again, we are tracking that severe weather later into the afternoon and evening. It is a First Alert weather day. And with that, it's always a good reminder to download our First Alert weather app. It is free. It's a free download in the App Store. Just search WMC. You can find it there. And it's great because, you know, with this weather coming through in the overnight hours, you're going to be able to get all the alerts you need, and it can be tailored to your specific area. So it's only the alerts that are going to impact you. It's also a good chance if you are on social media, follow our meteorologists. They're going to be doing updates throughout the day to keep you informed with what you need to know. But that'll do things, wrap things up here at the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Amanda Hansen. Midday headed your way at the top of the hour.